It's time for Twig This Week in Google. We've got an actual attorney, Cathy Gellis, joining us to talk about Twitter versus Musk. Jeff Jarvis is also here, and Pruitt. And what happens to Twitter after the smoke clears? Some people say it's actually going to be good for Twitter. Speaking of smoke, they're banning Juul, but why can't the FDA ban cigarettes? Isn't that the real disaster? And then it's time for Twink Coin, the first cryptocurrency based on pastry. It's all coming up next on Twig.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Twig, This Week in Google, episode 672, recorded Wednesday, July 13th, 2022. Lamination from the Heart. This Week in Google is brought to you by New Relic. That next 9 p.m. call is just waiting to happen. Get New Relic before it does, and you can get access to the whole New Relic platform and 100 gigabytes of data per month, free forever. No credit card required. Sign up at newrelic.com/twig. And by CashFly. Deliver your video on the network with the best throughput and global reach, making your content infinitely scalable. Go live in hours, not days. Learn more at cashfly.com. It's time for our Twig This Week in Google. Stacy's got the week off. Aunt Pruitt is here from Hands On Photography and community manager of the fabulous Club TWiT. Hello, Aunt. Good to see you.
Hello, sir. How you be, Mr. Laporte?
I be fine. I'm very well indeed. How are you?
Excellent.
I saw you earlier.
Unbelievable as always.
It was pizza day at the East Side Studios, and I saw you earlier. Enjoying
That's right.
that
Excuse
Chicago
me while I
style.
burp.
Yeah, I know. I literally was burping during Windows Weekly. It's kind of embarrassing. Also here, wait a minute, I've got a card now that lists all his fine attributes, ladies and
Oh,
gentlemen.
boy.
Jeff Jarvis, he's the Leonard Tao Professor for Journalistic Innovation at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York.
It's all more elegant now. It's with the new logo. It's
I
nice.
know. It's elegant's a good word
nice.
for it.
It's very nice.
They've even laminated your introduction card, so that I guess you're going to be around for a while.
You can't lose it. Well, you try to get rid of me. Bad penny, man. Bad penny.
We thought we should bring in some legal counsel on this day of all days. Actually, there's not a day goes by that Twig couldn't use legal counsel. Cathy Gellis is here. cgcounsel.com in beautiful New Jersey. Hello, Cathy.
Thanks for having me. Someday I hope to have a card.
Oh, that can be arranged.
Oh,
I'll know I've arrived.
Kathy's-
When my credentials can be laminated, I know I'm really somebody.
That's the real deal, man. That's the real deal. Kathy's also a contributor at Tech Dirt and read the entire 241-page filing from Twitter's attorneys at the Chancery of the State of Delaware. Did you read it all? Next, it's only 62 pages. It's not. You could do that in the morning.
I did some preparation for today. I have not read every word, but I read most of the filing, I think I read there's a motion to expedite that came out today. And then I was going back to the original agreement and I looked over a couple of the terms of the agreement.
Oh, you did your homework.
I did.
You
I even
did
went.
your homework.
I know. Well, this is so annoying. Last time I complained that you made me remember corporate law. So I even went and looked for my corporate law
Did you get your
notes,
law books?
which I could not find. But I've prepared sensible things to say on the subject because somehow I thought you might ask me a few things. So
Not too many. We're not going to make this.
So what do you think, Cathy? What do you think?
all right.
Well, let me give you a less open-ended question, because that could be a lot of things. Maybe start at the 30,000 foot level. Twitter is suing Musk, saying you said you were going to give us $44 billion, and by God, we want the $44 billion. They're suing in Delaware because that's where Twitter is incorporated. It's in the Chancery Court, which I've been told in some of the actions like this moves quickly. What is the time frame you think for this kind of a lawsuit?
I don't know, but the motion for to expedite was there's supposed to be a drop dead date built into the merger agreement itself, which was like October 24th of this year. So the idea with the motion to expedite is that there'll be about 2 months of pretrial. So whatever discovery would happen, enough time for a trial and enough time for an appeal for there to be a final resolution that would happen before October 24th. So that sort of thing is apparently not unprecedented, according to the motion to expedite. It's fast by general terms, even without the expedite.
Because I've heard people say, "Oh, it's going to be 10 years before this is resolved."
No.
It's not a decade-long action.
No,
I went through this with Time Warner and Paramount because there was a fight over that just as we were starting Entertainment Weekly, and it was a couple weeks.
Delaware is very corporate friendly too. That's why you incorporate in Delaware.
It's not really a regular court, I don't think. The Chancery Court is every so often you hit things that sort of have courts with unusual jurisdiction, and the terms of that jurisdiction tend to be very narrow, but by being very narrow, they can be very efficient. So we're not talking a normal federal civil litigation trial, which has its own timeline for how long it would take. This is something that speaks to Delaware law specifically, corporate law specifically, and the Chancery Courts being the courts of jurisdiction to work this out. And so they've seen this before. Delaware has laws built in order to companies like going there because it can be so efficient from the corporate law front. And so they got systems. But this is kind of, people have reflexes from general standard federal civil litigation. And those instincts don't really apply here, both in terms of the process and also I think in terms of the substance, where even though this is a breach of contract claim and you see those in federal court, this is an unusual and very specific type of breach of contract claim.
Yeah.
And it's
one that features, for instance, a variety of tweets. And emoji, there are emojis are involved.
Well, I meant in terms of normal Chancery Court things, but yes, it also has the one thing that will be interesting is, well, the one thing, there's probably a lot that's interesting about this, but it also has some characteristics that are unusual for the Chancery Court to be dealing with. So I don't know if they've ever adjudicated a poop emoji before, but now they will.
It'll be the first. Yeah. It's appropriate since World Emoji Day is Friday. I guess I'm not sure what Twitter wants to gain from this. It's because the money isn't coming out of Elon Musk's ample pockets, but involves a number of other investors. I don't know if they really intend to get all $44 billion. They may, but they want more than
$1 billion.
They want more than the $1 billion breakup fee.
They deserve it.
Important paragraph, I think, in paragraph 4 of the nature of the action. That price presented by Musk on a take-it-or-leave-it basis in an unsolicited public offer represented a 38% premium over Twitter's unaffected share price. Unaffected at the moment, soon to be affected. The other terms Musk offered and agreed to were, he touted, seller-friendly, there is no financing contingency, and no diligence condition. The deal is backed by airtight debt and equity commitments. Musk has personally committed $33.5 billion. I think that $33.5 billion is an important number. I suspect that's maybe the number they think they can get out of Musk. Although he wouldn't then own the company. He would. I don't know what that. It's very complicated because in order to buy the company, he has to have a proxy vote with the shareholders. Gets 51% of the proxy vote, and then all the shareholders have to get $54.20 per share, which is a total of.
And he's already said he doesn't want it.
And he said he doesn't want it, and presumably the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Saudi Arabia and Larry Ellison and the others who've put up money. Larry put up $1 billion himself. Are they going to be? Actually, that's a question for you, Cathy. Are they bound by what the Court of Chancery says? Actually,
I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure they'd be bound specifically because I think
they're loaning him the money, right?
Yeah. The contracts are with Musk, and chances are he might be in breach of their contracts to them, where they could basically pull their money. Like he might end up. I don't think I'm speaking out of school on this, but I could be wrong. Like all of this is A, I'm not a corporate lawyer, and B, law is not very stable these days, and C, this is really pushing the edges of it. But one outcome is he could potentially be on the hook for, if he even can't do the purchase, but some form of damages that comes close to the purchase price and not really have a way to finance it. And one question is, then what? He may have a judgment against him. It may, and what does he do if he's got this judge? What happens to Twitter if Twitter wins the money, has an award against him? What money can they actually extract from him?
Right.
this is going to be, I mean, the problem with the last 5-6 years in law is that we've been stress testing every single aspect of constitutional law, corporate law, contract law, tort law. Everything has been going against the outer boundaries of how this law is supposed to function. And when you go to that and you push the edges, you find out to what extent it actually can function well at the edges. This isn't supposed to happen. This isn't supposed to be a kind of thing that's supposed to happen. And Twitter's complaint really kind of puts together why it's not supposed to happen. You're not supposed to have a purchaser walk in, make an offer, and then essentially vandalize the company and then walk away from the deal.
Yeah.
So
they say Musk's exit strategy is a model of hypocrisy, a model of bad faith. The claims are pretext and lack any merit. I've said this before. We're in a situation, we have been for 5 years. Everything in this country, the rule of law is kind of assuming a certain amount of normal behavior. And when people are willing to go beyond the norms, we often don't have a remedy.
Then the question is, do we enforce the law, in this case, and the norms? Though you're right, those are two different things. But there is precedent here. There are things to call upon. I put up a really good thread from Morgan Ricks about the remedies involved, a Vanderbilt law professor. And I'll just read two of them. It's very daunting to order specific performance in a situation like this. There's external financing that has to be made to perform, which is what you just talked about. And if Musk flouts your order? It turns into a showdown over the court's jurisdiction and power, which is what you're saying, Leo, is that when you don't follow all the rules.
Yeah, if you just walk away, what are the chanceries going to come after you?
Well, there's chancery. There's also, don't forget, SEC, right? Because he's
who has, by the way, up to now been kind of lenient with Mr. Musk, shall we say?
Well, I think he's in trouble with SEC is going to happen to him. I mean, if they enforce it, that's irrespective of what happens with this case.
Exactly.
But the issue is that's punishment. Normally specific performance over a human being as a remedy for contracts is disfavored because there's a 13th Amendment problem with forcing another human being to do something they don't want to do. This is a little unusual because he's sort of a human being and sort of in corporate form. And it's not quite clear. You can sometimes get specific performance out of like an enterprise. Yes, come into close your deal. You have no choice. You can't walk away. It's been happened, and they're citing a Tyson Foods merger from sometime in this millennium as an example of one where it would happen. But it's tricky under the best of circumstances, and this is really sort of the outer edge of this is not normal. This is a human being who happened to have $1 billion to throw around. So it's very strange.
I mean, Ricks thinks that they're owed $1 billion for the rake-up fee, which I certainly would agree with, and $1 billion in monetary damages. Now, where did he come up with $1 billion for that? But I think you're talking that everybody's talking about how Twitter is so bad off. Twitter can get rid of Musk, and I think we'll get a few more billion cash in the bank. Now, if they have a different board and different management, that's a different question. What do they do with it? But I think Twitter could end up, in the long run, hurt for now. But if they can get rid of Musk and get some money, celebrate.
So that's the point of
that's what Ev said,
of these lawsuits and everything. It's weird because Ev also said Twitter should just walk away and say fine. And what a number of people complained about Ev, who's the founder of Twitter, Ev's tweet was that ignores the damage that Elon has done to shareholders. Right. There is, beyond the hurt to Twitter,
there's a fiduciary duty to shareholders here.
There is look at the current stock price for Twitter. I mean, this was damaging. This looks, like almost like a pump and dump scheme that went horribly wrong. And who gets damaged in a pump and dump scheme is the everyday investors. So it's easy for Ev, billionaire to billionaire, to say, "I'll let Elon off the hook," but there are a lot of Twitter investors who are left holding the bag. And
that's what the Chancery Court cares about.
Right,
the Chancery Court is all about shareholder protection.
Yes.
I mean, possibly at the expense of other things that would be good for law to care about, but that's what Delaware corporate law optimizes for: protection of shareholders, particularly of minority shareholders. And so that's what its adjudication in this forum is going to be keyed towards. And yeah, there's been damage. I mean, I use the word vandalized. Twitter didn't use that word, but they basically make the same point of you came, you offered, you kind of made it that we couldn't say no. And then we said yes to let you go ahead and close this deal. and you immediately disparaged us. Like, and here's your poop emoji. Like, this is it's
Which
a very
was
cogent argument.
specifically in violation of their agreement. They had a non-disparagement agreement.
Yes.
You were saying that Twitter deserves more than the $1 billion clause that was there. Is it only because of his poor behavior, or if he hadn't done any of these stupid tweets and poop emoji things and decided, you know what, I don't want to do this? Are you saying, okay, now they only deserve the $1 billion? No,
that happens all the time.
Really
People back out of agreements all the time.
Well, so this is the answer that I prepared in advance because yes. Although all the caveats, not a corporate lawyer, this is weird. Yeah. This is outside the jurisdiction. But one basic point to point out is I think normal Americans view damages you win in a lawsuit as sort of like almost a prize of like, woohoo, we got $1 million of the settlement or something like that. And that's not how damages are supposed to work. The idea of damages is that it's supposed to, in most cases, it's supposed to make you whole, particularly in a contract case. That the idea of damages is that the parties had thought they were okay. They thought they were going to have this deal, and the deal fell apart. So the point of the damages is to make them as okay as they would have been if the deal had closed. So the idea with the $1 billion fee that they wrote in is that, okay, if this deal falls apart, and I think the $1 billion, that clause maybe could have been better written, but I think the point of it is if the deal fails for a couple of reasons we can't anticipate, we'll be hurt, but we think that the hurt can be measured by $1 billion, and if you pay it, we'll be whole and then go about your lives. The issue is that Musk did more. And the reason is getting breached is not necessarily one of those terms that it was anticipated, but other terms beyond that. And also he caused additional harm. So I think what's happening with this complaint is that it's being queued up to try to get something more to recognize the huge hurt to Twitter. And I don't think that $1 billion will necessarily function as a cap, because I think it was based on, if you walk away from a number of these circumstances we can anticipate, this is the measure of damages, but that Twitter is now arguing this is something that nobody would have ever anticipated, because we would have anticipated that you'd act in good faith. And because you acted in this way instead, nobody could infer that you're acting in good faith. And we can't clean up the mess that you've made for us just because you've walked away now. So
Cathy,
I think they're trying to do that.
So if you look at the market cap right now, sorry, you go ahead, Ann. Sorry.
I don't claim to know the law like anybody else would. That's not a lawyer. But does defamation come in here? Is anything around that part of this consideration for his bad acting? Or is it just...
Or is that a different contract?
I think the thing is that the jurisdiction and the claims may be limited, but I'm speaking a little bit outside my zone here. But this is not a blank slate for... other types of claims that they might have against Elon Musk, including under California law, like unfair business practices.
So they could make that too?
Not
they could
here.
Also, they
this
could
is
go
Delaware.
to another court. No, not Chancery, but they could, whatever they win in Chancery, they could still go, to Ann's question, could they go to another court on another action?
I don't know.
Or the settlement here would be, here's your money, that ends it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, basically, one of the things that like you're trained up in law school is you play the hand you're dealt. But sometimes there's certain ways that things are set up where it's like, no, that's much more of a Hail Mary than you thought. And I don't know the answer to the question of how many bites at the apple and how many courts they could get. But if they found that they needed more bites, they would certainly try to get some, assuming it made sense to spend. But I don't know if they can. And right now you've got a live contract where there's been a breach, and right now the Chancery Court is the one to adjudicate the breach. And when they look at what broke and the hurt that happened, they're looking for a measure of damages. Now, I think one of the reasons they're asking for specific performance is that share price is a way of starting to come up with a number. So if it's not going to be forcing him to purchase at that number, then it might translate into some other form of money, and that's going to turn into multiples of billions, I believe, is the math.
The current
I think that's what they're shooting for.
So, Cathy, to answer that, the current market cap is $28 billion. The offer was $44 billion. So right there is $16 billion as a starting point. Now, probably not going to end up there. You could argue that the $44 billion was not the high end. It was what the stock was at the time, but that's still a lot more than $28 billion. So to Leo's point, the damage to the shareholders is considerable and measurable. And then to go to Ann's point, there's also damage to reputation. They've lost management. They're losing people. There are all kinds of other things too.
People were
wouldn't
leaving
frame it
because of the
necessarily-
speculation of him being the new ownership.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't frame it as defamation, partly because defamation is very narrow in the United States, and corporate defamation is even more narrow than that. But there's definitely an issue of disparagement, which they bring up in the complaint, because he was obligated not to disparage the company, and he did. And in theory, the deal could still close, even though he did. But then he disparaged and then walked away. So now they're like, these are the things of the true measure of damages, not necessarily the billion they had pre-negotiated, because they knew how much harm he could potentially cause if they walked away, but they hadn't anticipated how much harm he could cause if he also breached the non-disparagement clause. So somehow they would probably want to collect the money that would count that damage and remediate it. I don't know if this is the vehicle for it, but they're swinging for the fences as far as this vehicle is concerned to try to get a number that's high enough. And realistically, if they got a number that's high enough, then
if you had, all right, let's do a pool. If let's presume that Twitter wins and Musk gets away. Musk has to pay them out. It may come out of Chancery, it may come out of a settlement. What number do you think might be each of you?
Well, I should point out, and you brought this up, Cathy, the precedent for this is that earlier Tyson Foods case where they tried to back out of a purchase of the Iowa pork producers, IBP. This is in 2003, and the Chancery Court said, no, you can't back out. You've got to buy them. It's not exactly analogous.
I hope that doesn't happen here.
Well, it's not exactly analogous, but it's similar. And by the way, Tyson did a lot of damage in the process, chasing off other bidders like Smithfield, who also wanted them. So IBP had a pretty good cause in this case to say, hey, you really damaged us. And Tyson was forced to buy them. So I think that's what Twitter is saying is this is like Tyson. There isn't a material adverse effect. Elon publicly has said the problem is that the Twitter's figure of 5% spam bots is way low. That's not what his lawyer Skadden Arps said in their complaint against Twitter and their request to back out of the deal. They said that Twitter was non-cooperative. And Twitter's saying, what do you mean non-cooperative? A, we were, and B, we didn't have to be. We were more cooperative than we even had to be because this was a no due diligence deal.
Yeah.
So
they gave him a whole bunch of. Didn't they give him the fire hose?
They gave him all sorts of
They gave him the fire hose.
And Elon claimed it was rate limited, and that was a problem. There were claims.
And they raised the rate, I think, to something that was like completely unprecedented.
I'm going to quote Andrew Torres from the Opening Arguments podcast. They did 3 whole episodes on this, which was quite good and quite interesting, going back to the origin of it. But Andrew, and this is kind of in his bailiwick, he did talk about the Tyson case. That's how I know about it. He pointed out that that the court may decide and should probably decide that because Twitter did not have to give Elon anything, it was reasonable not to give him anything because the fear would be that Elon would then use that information against Twitter or tweet it. That it was in effect, this is the analogy they used, if you bought a house as is, and then a day before closing said to the seller, oh, and I want to inspect the roof, the seller would be within their rights to say no.
Yep.
Because you said, A, you were going to buy it as is. You waived that right. But furthermore, that gives you ammunition if you go inspect the roof and you find something or you damage the roof. It's only to the seller's disadvantage to give you that information. So the fact that Twitter cooperated at all, I think their lawyers are going to make the case. We went above and beyond our requirements. We were not required to give them anything.
Twitter's behavior at this point reads like, okay, either it reads that they were really, really, really desperate to close it.
That's what it looks
doing
like,
everything.
Right?
But it also reads as they knew this day would come, and they wanted to make sure that when this lawsuit got filed, they were in the best position possible.
Exactly.
That,
I think it's
it would be within their rights to say no, but then you have to litigate it. And the fact that they gave him everything, they went above and beyond to give him stuff. His ability to say, no, I didn't know enough they're pulling the air out of that.
It's all negotiation.
Yeah, but I have to say, we really come to a point in this country where these trollish billionaires seem like they can get away with anything and do anything they want. And it really maybe is time to say, no, you have legal obligations you have to fulfill. I think Ev Williams is completely wrong. His tweet was, if I were on the board, I'd be asking if we could just let this whole ugly episode blow over.
No, you can't. He's really injured the company.
Well, don't you find it very interesting? And I'm trying not to be conspiracy-minded here, but both Ev and Jack, both were very pro-Elon here. And I feel like somebody said, and maybe it's the case, that explains why Jack left abruptly, put in Agrawal, arguably not a great choice for CEO at Twitter, because he anticipated this. And he wanted this to happen. He wanted Twitter to be sold to Elon. And that's why he was pushing this all along. Here's the only real question to me. It's pretty apparent to me that Elon's in the wrong. Twitter's got a very strong case here. They should win. But Cathy, what happens if they do win? The court says, no, Elon, you have to buy it. And he says, yeah, but all of this is contingent on loans from a bunch of other third parties. Can he be forced to somehow fulfill that?
I don't know. I think the play here is to possibly everyone's satisfaction, the question is what the dollar amount is that it, in lieu of the specific performance, what would be the damage that would be calculated?
And some of that should go to the shareholders, right?
Potentially,
well,
yeah,
because
they're out the money.
It
goes into the value of the
company.
company. I mean, yeah, and this is so annoying because it's pressing. It's a lot of legal pieces in motion to which there's answers, but a lot of us who don't practice this every day don't necessarily. There's an answer over here and an answer over here. So there's a lot of threads of what happens. What if they do get a money judgment from him in some way? How do you enforce it? Against what do you enforce it? Like, this is a very geeky moment in time, but it's also really annoying to show up as a legal expert on a show and not have all the answers because there's a lot of interesting questions out there. So
we love your humility.
It's times like this. It's so glad I went to law school. But there is
times like this. I'm so glad I didn't.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I wish it gave me more X-ray vision. And it's kind of, it's exciting to see it play out. Except I'm upset about this. This is not a company I don't care about. This is not people I don't care about.
Yes.
I really liked what Jeff said, and I'm inclined to agree. I think the best outcome for Twitter is get this out of the way, extract as much cash as you can, which I think really should be more than at least a single billion, but I don't know how many other billions it should be for a just result. Somehow inject that into the company, get rid of its current board, and get good people who believe in the company back on board, who can retain the talent and go forth and be a really innovative and civically minded company that it's been. I mean, Twitter has been a really good neighbor in the areas of law that I care about, and free speech and free speech protection. They stand up for their users. They push back against abusive subpoenas. They're pushing back against censorial behavior in India. Like, this company has been a really good neighbor, and I want them to succeed. And I think we're all kind of screwed if they don't. So there's a certain bit where there's like some interesting shade for let's get the popcorn. Except I care too much about this company and what happens in this really interesting medium that they've developed. So I want the result, and I'm rooting for the result, and it's contorting my legal analysis to get the result that I think would be best. But as a lawyer, I'm also an advocate. So what do I need to push on to get that? I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that Twitter can win. Twitter can win with money. Twitter can win with an award of money that somehow they can enforce, and then they can go on with their lives. However, that's a bunch of really small eyes of needles that they need to thread an awful lot through. And the only thing that makes the popcorn eating a little bit more palatable is this will start to happen more quickly than a normal civil trial would. If the motion to expedite is granted, hot off the presses, a colleague said they recently turned down one motion to expedite, but that may have been because it was at the beginning of the pandemic. So can't quite read the tea leaves there. The motion
that
for
was
the
a different case,
it was a different case. Yeah. And this one, reading their motion was compelling. Now, also, all of this analysis needs to put a giant asterisk of we have not seen what Musk would like to defend himself with, and he gets to. And Skadden and Arps is not a bunch of stupid lawyers. Like, they know how to write a pleading. So something will come, and we can see what defense he provides, which, and then we can go analyze this again. But people are wondering, because so much of this has happened in public, like what could he possibly say to defend his, what he's done here? And
the only
it's hard
bad
to imagine.
thing about all this is we're going to hear a lot more Elon Musk Twitter news over the next year, unfortunately.
Ant was hoping
There's
we
a
were
lot
done
of
on Twitter.
bad
He was
So
hoping this
let's
was
move on from that to say.
Can I ask?
Talk about it.
Can I ask a question first?
Yes.
Leo, I know it's not a democracy. Can I ask a question first?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, he looks so sad. He's going to let me ask a question. Go ahead. I would like to hear, because Cathy started on this path. I'd like to hear if you're the new chairman of the board, the new board member of Twitter, new CEO of Twitter. What do you do now? Do you look for a purchaser? That's question one. Question two is, whoever does a deal with Elon Musk again in life, what happens to him in business?
I don't think Twitter would have talked to him. They knew exactly what was coming up because he'd already gotten in trouble with the SEC for pretending that he was going to take Tesla private. Twitter knew exactly who they were dealing with. I don't think they wanted to do this, but what choice did they have? Right?
It's tricky. I mean, a key term that I've not used yet, but it's really important for all this analysis is the idea of fiduciary duties and who has them and to whom do they have them, and that there's fiduciary duties to the companies, to the shareholders. Elon Musk arguably had some fiduciary duties during the pendency of this duty and of this transaction. And one of the arguments that they made in the pleading is that he basically breached it because he wasn't giving consent so they could do the things that it would take to retain the talent. That's a big thing that you have to follow with. Did the people currently in power do what they should have been doing as to protect the company, to protect the other shareholders? And the answer is they may have been between a rock and a hard place, and they did what, a reasonable thing. But you might want other people.
Remember, initially they adopted a poison pill. They said they were going to adopt a poison pill. They tried to, and then they just finally, for some reason, just threw up their hands and said, well, no one else is going to buy us. Maybe he's not completely full of,
it's
what.
tricky because if somebody's offering you,
Go ahead.
Well, if somebody's offering you a lot of money, more than, somebody offers to buy your house for more than it's worth.
Premium. Yeah.
How do you, it's a tricky thing to then say no to that. And there's a question of whether you're actually within your fiduciary duties to say no to that. That's tricky because the problem is free money, that you should say yes, except it was free money with this huge anchor around it where free money, unless you lose the entire company in the process of pursuing it, in which case, and maybe there was enough writing on the wall that they really should have said, this is not free. This is like too good to be true. And we cannot possibly say yes to it because it's going to break the company if we try to do this. But I don't know, hindsight 2020, et cetera. But I don't know. The problem is the company is capitalized in a not particularly strong position, and getting it to a position where it is strong and can't just be swallowed up by somebody else who has the cash in hand and doesn't really care about the company. That's a thing that could happen. Although corporate
that's
law
what I'm trying to
like
ask here is, let's say you've got $3 billion more. You're rid of Musk. What's the strategy for Twitter going forward? Imagine we're past Chancery now. We're past all of this.
I think some of it is what is its business plan and what is its path to profitability and what is its monetization plan, and how do you take what works best about Twitter and expand it in a increasingly hostile regulatory environment. This is a tough company to drive, but it's also incredibly exciting about what it can do and if it's got the runway to succeed. This is tricky. It's a public company, so it's got different things holding it back and different duties and obligations. It's regulated in different ways. But on the other hand, some of that regulation should have protected Twitter much better than it has so far.
I say
I don't know.
find
This
a
is
new
tough.
C-suite.
I don't necessarily have a problem with as an engineer being CEO. I kind of like that. The problem is the moment in time was it really needed somebody who might have had more of the corporate savvy to navigate this.
Right.
But
Or
in
the
terms
board.
of rebuilding Twitter, he might actually be the guy.
Let's face it, it's the board is the issue here. The board, by the way, does not have a lot of dog in this hunt. They're not big shareholders, as Musk has pointed out. So their fiduciary responsibility is to the shareholders. That's
and Ev and Jack are off the board.
Yeah,
right?
It's interesting that Ev and Jack both have big opinions about this. I think I would say the issue really was it's do or die for Twitter. That this guy ultimately is the white knight they needed because no one else would buy it. It's been on for sale for a long time. Nobody else is going to buy it.
He was a wolf in sheep's clothing, and
it wasn't ideal,
that's the
but they
problem
knew that.
Oh, and the sheep's clothing was threadbare.
Yeah, they knew it, and I think that they said, "This is our last shot, guys." That's clearly what Jack Dorsey thought, and this is take it or leave it. And I don't know what Elon was thinking, whether he ever really wanted it. It's my guess.
I don't think he understood what was valuable about it. I mean, he rails at things that are actually good about it, and he doesn't seem to understand a lot of the issues, including the things he doesn't like about it. Like, he really doesn't have a lot of understanding about what the business was he was trying to buy his way into.
Well, and there's been a huge cost to Twitter because they've lost staff. In fact, I have a story here somewhere that Twitter is completely demoralized by this.
Yes, they also fired but what I don't understand is Kayvon, I'm forgetting his last name, who was the head of product, is brilliant, and they fired him, and I'm not sure why. They fired 2 top executives. I don't get that, and that's one of Musk's arguments, by the way, was, you're tearing the company apart before I buy it. You've fired key employees.
At this point, he's just throwing everything against the wall.
Of course he is.
He is. But that has a little bit more traction than most of the things he wants to say. I don't think the bot thing has traction. I don't think the not giving him information has traction. That, I think, is a defensible thing. Managing the human resources, but that might be insufficient. Is it
a materially adverse? That's, by the way, that's the term that they've got to demonstrate. That's what happened in Tyson versus IBP versus Tyson. It has the court decided that the things that had gone on at IBP were not materially adverse, and as a result, the merger agreement had to go through. Tyson said, "Oh no, their price has gone down. There's all sorts of terrible things happening," and the court said, "No, it's not enough."
I also tend to think that Elon could have negotiated for more. Like, if he wanted to lock things down in place, he probably could have asked for more. And instead, he sort of negotiated an agreement that gave the company latitude to continue to run itself. And it did continue to run itself. And it's not clear that the personnel changes are out of line with a company running itself, which typically, you kind of have some discretion to run yourself, where shareholders can't come after you for, you ran the company this way and I object. So it holds water that he could complain about that, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to win the day. And a lot of this stuff is it's not like it's never happened before. A lot of these terms were standard, and the Chancery Court has seen them before and knows how to adjudicate them. And there's some precedent that they can turn to.
What happens to Twitter now?
That's my question.
Yeah, that's really what we care about, right? Unless you're a shareholder,
right.
Twitter's real value has nothing to do with any of this. It's the people who post to it. It's us.
Mm-hmm.
Will we continue to post to Twitter? Why wouldn't we?
Yes.
I didn't like the idea of posting to Twitter if Elon owned it. That felt like a different proposition than what I bargained for.
But although some people did leave, most people just said, "Well, let's see what happens." Right?
People leave performatively all the time.
Yeah. Mike Isaac, I think, quit and came back and.
Yeah.
So honestly, the value of Twitter has nothing to do with, as long as they can keep the servers running, right? It has nothing to do with the company. It has everything to do with who's on it and who posts to it. Assuming that nothing that happens in all of this brings the servers to their knees.
If it becomes a protocol, if you go to the blue sky.
I mean, you're going to still tweet, Jeff. I know you are.
I'm going to tweet, and I think that if it does become a protocol and you can build things on top of it, WordPress-like, it could be the conversational WordPress. It could grow much, much bigger if it goes back to even better than an API, the protocol ability to build things on top of it and businesses on top of it. I think there's ways to make that happen. It's not easy. It's not clear and obvious how to do that, but I do think there is a different strategy to be had.
Are you basically saying they need to reinvent themselves? Because at the core, that's not what Twitter was all about.
I don't think they have to change a thing. They have to keep the servers running.
Just keep the servers up so we can have those really quick bursts of communication with people we care about. Or
Twitter is what we say it is.
If you will.
Twitter is what we say it is. Aside from features like Twitter Blue or the edit button, none of which really, which is de minimis. Twitter is what is made of people, like Soylent Green. And if the people still tweet, and the people still go there to read it, as long as they can keep the servers going, I mean, that may be a question because I don't know how they monetize
It's more
it.
than that, though, because then you also get into content moderation and things like that. So one of the things is whether Twitter is multiple things at once, all rolled into a company. Like all the social media companies are both infrastructure and application at the same time. And one of the things that I think makes sense, and Twitter is probably further ahead in thinking about this than any of the other companies because of the blue sky, is that Twitter functioning as essentially almost platform infrastructure for other people to then deploy for their own communities and their own content and their own distribution of like 240 character tweets or whatever they end up called, where you divorce a little bit the hardware and so, the really embedded infrastructure parts of what Twitter is from the content that sits on top of it. That may be inevitable anyway, just because of the regulatory.
I think that there are, to be honest, we're going to take a break in a second and unfreeze Cathy. But I think we have to take a break anyway. But I think there are, to be honest, maybe ways to handle this issue of server and moderation, all the expenses of Twitter, in maybe a better way than a monolithic Twitter. Mastodon easily handles moderation issues. Maybe there's a way for Twitter to self-moderate.
Or choice moderate that I get my Twitter, you get your Twitter.
Right.
We have different Twitters,
Exactly.
and I hire Ant
How hard
to
is
run
that?
my Twitter and pay him for that.
Well, or you just
Find the good people.
unfollow and block people that you don't like, and then your Twitter is just what you want it to be. I think it's completely doable. So I don't think this might be actually salutary for Twitter in the long run.
That's my argument. I think it was bad that they got schmutzed by him at all.
Well,
but if they can get rid of him and get some money, and
if he gives him, he's got $21 billion that he's out of pocket. He gives him $21 billion, which I could see the court saying, well, we can't force your lenders to give you anything, but your $21 billion is good still. Give him $21 billion. And that's enough. That's enough to run Twitter for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
$5 billion, $10 billion,
This
anything
could be quite
would be
good.
Nice. Now, do you buy the argument that Yahoo made that he did all of this so he could cash out more Tesla stock?
That wasn't actually did not come from Yahoo. Yahoo had the story.
Yeah.
But
who argued it?
Was it Matt Levine? I can't remember. But somebody clever said Elon was at a point in time where he had to sell stock or lose it, and he needed a way to do this that had a cover. So I thought that was kind of clever. This is
Line 27.
Henry Blodgett said this.
Oh, it was Henry said that.
Henry Blodgett said this. So this is a tweet from Henry Blodgett. He said that Musk's 10-year Tesla options were about to expire, so he had to sell them. The Twitter bid allowed him to do that without facing questions about why he was selling. And incidentally, he sold at an excellent price. Now, Henry Blodgett's pretty sharp.
He definitely is.
And he knows the market, and he knows the ways of marketeers. So maybe that's what happened.
He could have done a better job and just walked away with $1 billion cost for doing that, and not with 10, 20 billion.
I want him to be slapped silly, personally.
But
that's completely an emotional. That's not a legal judgment.
Wow.
I just an emotional judgment.
Want to file a friend of the court brief?
Well, my legal analysis is being tinted by the same sentiment.
Yeah.
So, which is a danger. I want to put up all the asterisks for, it does not feel like justice is getting served if he could just hit and run like this and run away. I want to feel as a citizen of this planet that law can prevent this sort of thing. And I know that law is built to prevent this sort of thing. So I'd like to see it actually flex its muscle and do its job and down with this sort of thing. And that there's actually a remedy that law can deliver to somebody who got hurt by this sort of behavior.
Well, and there's a real argument that we need that to be, because and this is what the SEC's job, by the way, is to preserve faith in the markets. And the number one job of the SEC is to make sure that any investor feels like they have all the information that any other investor has so that they can make an intelligent decision to buying a stock. Investors will abandon the stock market if they feel like it's rigged and there's an inside, group of people that knows what's going on. And that's the SEC's entire point for its existence, because otherwise the markets don't work. You have to feel like it's a fair market. This is the kind of thing that makes people say, that's it, I'm not buying stock anymore. So it's really important that this be solved and that people be made whole and that this kind of behavior is sanctioned in such a way that it doesn't keep happening. You don't want somebody else to do this.
Twitter being made whole is one thing, but the SEC stepping up and doing what they should do is a whole other thing, sir.
Punishment, yes.
Yeah.
I
1-2 punch.
We'll see if that happens.
It's also
it affected Tesla too.
Yeah.
If that theory is correct and stuff.
Right,
he's got a lot of equity in a lot of positions, and he was mushing them around. So, and possibly not in the transparent way that it's supposed to happen.
It's in a way the point of any court too is to preserve our faith in the rule of law. If you go to a country, I use Egypt as an example because I have some direct experience there, where you can do something because you know somebody in the government or you paid the right bribes. It undermines everybody's faith in the fairness, the essential fairness in the rule of law. And as soon as that starts to crumble, it all comes tumbling down. That's why Trump needs to be taken to task. It's why Elon needs to be taken to task. If we want this country to continue to operate, if we want our social contract to continue, it requires that the institutions act in such a way that our trust is preserved. That's what the courts do. That's what the SEC does. That's what government does. So that's really the stakes of this, if you ask me. It's not, I hate stupid billionaires and their jerks. They're
I would like to amend that, please. Yes, +1, amen. Exactly. And all the forms that you've just described, like we need to see that law actually works.
Yes.
And that it works for bad actors, because otherwise, where are we? What defense do we have? What are we proud of? How do we understand our society to function, and what do we believe in, so that we don't just feel like it's pure power, pure violence. That is how our society is structured. We think we're better than that, and I'd like to, but now the rubber hits the road. We need law to show us that we are better than that.
Yeah, and there's example after example of countries where that has failed, and they become failing countries. It's not a good look. Let's take a little break. Cathy, Gellis, so glad to have you.
Yay,
from the
we
beautiful
needed you today.
Bedminster Golf Course in downtown New Jersey. No.
I am not there.
From the Garden State. From the Garden State. CGCounsel.com is her website. What kind of, you keep saying you don't do this kind of law. What kind of law do you do?
Internet law, I usually say, some tech policy generally, and then First Amendment, civil liberties type law.
The good kind.
All God's work.
The good kind. Jeff Jarvis, he's keeping us honest as a professor of journalism at the wonderful City University of New York, and of course, a stalwart of this show, and the chief anti-democratic officer. We also thank Mr. Pruitt for being here. The voice of reason, the calm voice.
I'm just keeping the seat warm right now.
Well, you're doing a hell of a job.
And trying my best not to say any more expletives on air. Sorry.
It is tempting, though, isn't it? I don't blame you. Our show today brought to you by New Relic. Oh, Lordy, if you're a software engineer, you know that late night phone call just waiting to happen. The phone rings, the Slack buzzes, whatever it is that gets you out of bed, and there's an alert and something's broken. Now you got your whole team scrambling. The boss is calling. You got tool after tool after tool you're firing up. It's like a fire drill. No one knows what's happening. This is all because you have not implemented observability in your networks and systems. According to the New Relic report, only half of all organizations are doing so. And it's clear maintaining network observability is a big issue for companies around the world. That's why you choose New Relic. New Relic. It's all in one, 16 different monitoring products. With them all in one place, your engineering team can see their entire software stack all in one place. No silos, right? That's huge. You've got application monitoring, APM, unified monitoring for your apps and microservices. If you use Kubernetes, you'll love Pixie, instant Kubernetes observability. They've got distributed tracing No management headaches, just the info you need. Network performance monitoring that goes across all the silos. You get a system-wide correlated view. But most importantly, I think, pinpoint issues down to the line of code. So you go, oh, whoops. And you can fix it quick. And whether you're a cloud-native startup or a Fortune 500 company, it'll just take you 5 minutes to set up New Relic in your environment. And you know what? Here's the best part. It's free. Access to the entire platform, 100%, plus 100 gigabytes of data free a month, forever, no credit card needed. So what are you waiting for? That middle of the night phone calls is just out there waiting to happen. Get New Relic right now before it does. It takes a minute to set up, costs you nothing, no credit card needed. Sign up right now, newrelic.com/twig. If New Relic knows, you ought to know. NEWRELIC, newrelic.com/twig. We thank them so much for supporting This Week in Google. You support us when you use that URL. newrelic.com/twig. They all went to a Chicago-style pizza place for lunch.
Oh,
and I can't eat that stuff, so I have a nice salad instead.
What did you have, Ant?
I had the deep
Pepperoni?
dish pepperoni, and then there's some other one back here.
His request was simple. They asked, "What do you want?" He said, "Meat."
I'm a simple man. I want
to make me sweat.
Somebody asked for a pesto pizza. I said, "Come on, get out of here. Go away. Get out of here." That was Russell, I think. Russell wanted pesto. All right.
What are you guys talking about eating pizza in California?
I know, it's not the real, but this is Chicago style, so it's deep dish, so it's not like what you're getting out there in beautiful New Jersey. I was really thrilled when we were in Rhode Island that Frank Pepe's Pizza Napolitano has opened a Warwick, Rhode Island branch. So that's the only real pizza, Pepe's Pizza in New Haven.
You'll remember that I ruled that Gino's East was the best in the country.
That's a Chicago style.
Yeah.
We have it's very similar to Gino's, actually, old Chicago pizza here. It's pretty good. Jeff, when he worked, was this at Entertainment Weekly?
People.
When he worked at People, was like the pizza guy.
Yeah.
Wow.
But a lot of New Yorkers really hate your guts after that.
John's in New York was second.
Now.
Oh, okay. Good.
We need to add that to his lower half.
Yeah, really.
I was on the menu at Gino's East. The cover of the menu.
We have to delaminate this and add it.
Mr. Burke, where are
There's
you?
a Google Doc. Oh, let me add it to the Google Doc.
I'm still working on my first lamination, and he's on his second.
Oh, this is like the fourth. Google shareholder, former TV guy, critic Frank Sinatra called him a bum. Ray Kroc called him a nickel millionaire. Murphy Brown called him a bottomless pit of hate. Formerly one of San Francisco's 100 most eligible bachelors. He lived in the New Jersey tomato fields. The human DDoS. These are all things he's called himself. El Jefe de Taco Bell does not take criticism well. Trapped in the jungle gym of life. Online man, certified big guy, disaster in the grocery store, author all about Android, email of the week for November 23rd, 2021, and almost a New Jersey mall mogul. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you.
And line 191 is me on the cover of Gino's East, a pizza menu cover boy.
So, so we have to add this to the Google Doc. I gave Gino's East 5 pies in my very scientific survey for People. And so as a result, they made him a menu item. What was the Jeff Jarvis pizza?
What do you mean? I ordered pepperoni.
Oh.
What do you expect?
I thought but did they name a pizza after you? Is that what you said?
No.
Oh.
They just put they put my review on the cover of the menu.
It's on the menu.
That's it. That's me. That's my review on the cover of the menu. Right there,
like
by Jeff Jarvis.
The Gino pizza. Is it still there?
No, I don't think so. Was for years.
1982.
Like, who's Jeff Jarvis?
You don't really want
I'm not
to
sure
say.
I would trust a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 40-year-old
And
review
then when I wrote a review of Gino's East when it came to San Francisco for the Examiner, under the headline "A Burp to Remember," they posted a copy of that review at every Gino's East in the country.
Wow.
I would be able to go in and say,
remember.
"Look, kids, there's me," and they'd run away embarrassed.
You were peripherally a question on Jeopardy about a month ago. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
They said,
EW?
It was about the satellite.
Skylab.
Skylab.
Oh.
They said this satellite. No. The San Francisco Examiner offered a $10,000 prize for a piece of this satellite when it crashed on the Earth, and the answer was, "What is Skylab?"
Skylab.
So I thought of you when I saw that, and I knew the answer, by the way. Thanks
Here's another. Let me see. I'll put another image up here.
No, that's okay.
I'm thinking about me.
Although
about me.
You might be interested to know that according to NASA, the asteroid Bennu, Bennu, its surface is close to a plastic ball pit. You might be interested to know that.
This is interesting.
And they were puzzled because back in 2020, the Osiris spacecraft was supposed to land on Bennu. You may remember this, an asteroid 200 million miles from the Earth, collect a small sample and come back. But when the spacecraft started to go down, it realized it would have sunk into Bennu had it not fired its thrusters to back away immediately after it grabbed the dust and rock. It was starting to sink into it turns out the particles making up Bennu's exterior are so loosely packed and lightly bound to each other that if a person were to step out onto Bennu, they would feel very little resistance, as if stepping into a pit of plastic balls that are popular play areas for kids.
Thanks for the explanation,
Yeah.
journalist.
The ball pit. No, that's
And
that's
how
NASA.
deep? How deep?
Well, they didn't say that. Like how it's
Like if it only goes up to your knees, okay,
Yeah.
fine. If it's a little bit higher than
Quicksand.
that, you're gonna have
Space
issues.
quicksand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, atmosphere may also be a problem, so
Yeah.
you may have other issues. But that sounds like an issue unto itself.
Anyway, yeah. I mean, they don't. I wish they would say. How deep would you sink? How deep is your ball pit? Deep is your ball pit. I really want to know.
Plus, when it took off, did it need the resistance of taking off from the asteroid?
Imagine the
rocket?
flying balls from the ball pit.
Or did it just scatter the whole damn thing
guess
and
it
ruin
did.
the asteroid?
I don't know. They made a mess on Bennu.
You've ruined that asteroid. Go to your room.
How deep is your ball pit?
It'll run into Elon's Tesla in space.
All right. Back to work, you guys. Unlike the Twitter employees who apparently have completely lost all their mojo. Twitter's, according to Wired magazine, as Elon walks, Twitter employees say no one's in charge. They're fed up about being kept in the dark. One Twitter employee said, "Twitter is a poop show internally. I can confirm that for you right now without a doubt." Talking to Wired. There's no strong leadership at the moment, says a second Twitter staffer, also speaking anonymously. The entire company's running on autopilot.
What do you expect them to do right now?
I've been at companies during a transition like this, and yeah.
What is the exact date on that? Because I wonder if it predates the. I wonder what
it's
the
yesterday.
morale, the effect of morale.
Yesterday.
So does that incorporate the aftermath of the litigation being filed? Like,
a
I'm
bunch of
being
kvetchers.
inclined to think that there's going to be like an uptick in like, okay, there's a meaning, there's a purpose, something. Although it's shooting for purchase, which may not actually enthuse most of the Twitter employees, but it's Twitter fighting back. So maybe that's something.
In fact, it had, according to Wired, we'd been told nothing by senior management. Internal communications about the latest developments have been limited to a message pointing users to a tweet by company chair Brett Taylor, who said, "We're going to sue." It was prior to them filing the suit, but they did say, "We plan to pursue legal action in the Chancery Court." Employees have been asked not to add their own comments to that post. One employee says, "Every time I find out something about Twitter, I found out on Twitter. I find out about the Musk news via friends, not through my own company, which has been a consistent issue from the beginning."
Whiner.
The tricky thing is that's actually, from the lawyer perspective, that's good. Like, you kind of want that information discipline because you don't want, and this is kind of, Musk has used this before, where wayward Twitter people have said things, have vented, and he's wanted to use it against the whole company,
right? Which
kind of puts the employees in this really impossible bind, because kind of to do your job, you need to be able to talk around the water cooler. But the problem is the water cooler is discoverable and it can mess up the litigation position of the company. It shouldn't matter, but it ends up mattering because it creates optics and things like that. So this is tough, and it isn't just Twitter that has this problem. Like any company with employees, especially a lot of employees, some of whom may not be having a good day, and they say things, and if those things are ever found, and sometimes they might have to be found, it can create problems. But not letting employees know stuff or talk about stuff also creates problems. So I don't know what the path through is. This is a really unfortunate bind that companies can actually be in.
Today, a famous short seller, aptly named Hindenburg Research. I bet your blimp is going to crash. I think so.
That's clever.
But they didn't short Twitter. They went long on Twitter, which has actually boosted Twitter's
Which is
stock
shorting
price.
Elon.
They said exactly that. We've accumulated significant long position in shares of Twitter. Twitter's complaint poses a credible threat to Musk's empire. Where did they say that?
Ooh, the whole empire?
On Twitter.
I don't think that's beyond this is rose-colored glasses for how I want justice to play out. But if they are able to somehow extract leverage for money from Musk, where does he get the money from? And that, I think, puts his empire at risk, because he has, a huge amount in terms of assets and capitalization, his overall net worth, but it's not all liquid. And so
He has
what
tons
does he
of
have
debt
to
against
do?
it already.
Well, and
debt against it, and
here's an important number. Bloomberg, I think, estimated that if Tesla shares went down below 725, he borrowed on margin, that the margin would be called, and the Tesla is now at 711.
And the problem is if he has
was down
to litigate,
to 700. So yeah,
if he has to liquidate, then he's going to flood the market, which is also going to drop money further. So he's also in a position of losing whatever control he has over his other companies as he divests.
And then Tesla
and other
shareholder
people
suits up the yin-yang.
well, and that just shows you that Elon is not the genius some seem to think he is. This has really been not just bad for Twitter, but bad for Elon and all of his holdings, right?
Yeah. I mean, he tried to buy a business he didn't really understand. That's not a good move under the best of circumstances.
And then lost his, confidence. And
you tend to be a little more positive on Elon than we do.
I still say that he was potentially buying Twitter to put other folks in place to help it be a more successful business. Not necessarily him doing all of the stuff that's going to change it, but putting the other people in place, similar to how it is with SpaceX and so forth. Because those rockets doing whatever they're doing ain't got nothing to do with his brain, in my opinion. It's the team. It's all of the other scientists that he helped put in place.
And clearly he's done a good job
to get stuff done
of that.
And I figured that's what he would have done with Twitter. But most people don't really care for that opinion.
Well, so it's an interesting opinion, but I don't think he understands the business enough to know who is qualified to run it for him. So I think that might almost be easier with SpaceX, because did you build a rocket and did it go up in space? Okay, you might be qualified.
Right,
whereas with Twitter, I think it's
Did you deal with
I don't know. I
human
suppose
beings and
there's
understand how to deal with
items
them?
on the resume that may be more specific to it, but it might be easier to vet expertise for something where the science is a little bit more straightforward, whereas Twitter is messy. This is humanity, and human beings are messy. And even the people who are expert at it are sort of, trying to figure out everything that's going on. And just his attitude in terms of his misapprehensions about how things work, how the law Twitter works. It's just, yeah, okay. So he would put in a qualified team. That sounds great, but I'm not sure he'd be able to come up with one, because I don't think he knows what one looks like and is able to evaluate the qualifications. So even if he meant well, his ability to pull this off, I think, is dubious.
it's kind of, that's actually part of the problem with Twitter is nobody's ever done this before. There is no, you can't even look at Facebook and say, oh yeah, we'll just copy their strategy.
No.
Twitter is absolutely a unique business. It's not anything we've ever seen before.
But there's some acuity that you can still demonstrate. And, also there have been people who've been building it for a while. And, there is some expertise that's built, and certain ways of
It's all at Twitter, ironically.
Yeah, so they really need to not lose the knowledge base so much, although there have been generations of leadership that I think have made missteps. But Twitter is an interesting company with an interesting corporate soul. And I think the thing that makes me root for them is hoping that they can keep that. The bit that really sort of understood how they were idealizing free speech as a normative value. And I know they get criticized for like, well, you kick somebody off. How can that be pro free speech? But ultimately, I think they are in a number of ways, including, as I said, like the way they back up their user speech rates, protect anonymous users, how they even deployed their legal team, which was under the guidance of AMAC originally. I think like there's some really good stuff. Twitter's got an excellent legacy. And so if they can value that and build up around that core, that soul that's kind of been the running theme throughout its entire history, I think they stand a chance, but I don't think he even recognizes that's there. And nor do an awful lot of other people.
The closest company, Leo, I think is WordPress.
Well,
right.
Ev Williams, who founded Twitter, left.
And Blogger before that.
Before that, Odeo. First Blogger, then Odeo, which was a podcast platform. Kind of, I know about it because we were on it. It was too early and it maybe wasn't quite the right idea. He very famously gave all the investors money back, which is unheard of in Silicon Valley. After that, founded Twitter. Left Twitter. Co-founded with Jack and another guy whose name never gets mentioned.
Ringo.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Biz Stone?
Biz Stone, yeah.
Biz came later. There was another guy who says, I invented it on the swing set
Gold,
at South Park. Jason Goldman or something. Anyway.
Come on, chat room.
See, isn't that sad? This guy,
Noah
it's
Glass? No.
Yeah, Noah Glass.
Was it Noah Glass?
Yeah, Noah Glass. And he even came up with the name Twitter. Yeah. Noah was at Odeo. Anyway, I know because I was there. I remember. I was in the park. They were swinging. No, I know because they stole my name is how I know.
Yeah.
I asked Ev about that later. He said it was great. We asked him on our show about Inside the Net. We were interviewing, and he said, yeah, I knew about Twitter, but I didn't think either of us were going anywhere, so what the hell?
Wow.
He was half right. Anyway.
Oh, I did find it interesting in the complaint. They capitalized the word tweet. And from a lawyer perspective, that was fascinating. They're not not risking genericide of their own corporate names. That tweet was capitalized in every instance that they used it. I just thought that was an interesting thing.
At one point, and I kind
Google.
of considered this an admission of, if not guilt, a guilty conscience. They decided to get everybody to call it a tweet, not a twit. There was, for a while, people were calling them twits. And they trademarked tweet, and they said, please call it a tweet. So even if it had nothing to do with me, I took it.
Maybe you could have gotten some money out of them.
Anyway.
As Jammer B laughs in the background.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ev, who then left Twitter and founded Medium after 5 years running Twitter. Medium, a publishing platform in 2012 that was, and I didn't remember this, the name comes from the fact, partly comes from the fact that it's in between a full-length blog post and a tweet. It's a medium-length post. Has now stepped down on Tuesday, a month short of 10 years. Williams is giving up. He is going to move upstairs, become chairman. He will be replaced, which is interesting, effective July 20th, just a few days from now, by the chief executive of the online coaching company, Coach.me, Tony Stubblebine.
They have a history together.
The name is familiar. I feel like
it's in the story, the Times story. He's
been around. Casey Newton and Platformer writing also about this. Basically, I think the conclusion that Casey makes and a lot of people make is that Medium could have been Substack, but somehow missed the boat. And of course, it went through several famous pivots. And a former employee noted, this is Casey writing, that for all the pivots over the years, Williams always seemed a step behind. Quote, I'd say you could describe the Ev era of Medium as a series of digital publishing experiments that often felt of the zeitgeist without ever defining it. A lot of the work Medium did over the years genuinely had an impact. And I know you publish on Medium, Jeff, but it often felt, for whatever reason, like Ev made it a point not to lean into this work. He meandered and never seemed satisfied.
I think that's a bit unfair. I think that two things. I think that Ev had and Medium had an impact on so many other publishing platforms. It set a standard for typography, ease of use, WYSIWYG beauty, and so on. He had a vision for I'm going to say the word platisher, to be a publisher and a platform at the same time and figure that out, which he didn't. And the problem always was trying to figure out the business model for content now in a world where everyone can speak. See Twitter discussion. If speech itself has become the commodity, it's no longer a special thing to write. It's no longer a special thing to be able to publish. Everybody can do it. That's the beauty of the internet. How do you then make something on top of that? And I think that he was, on the one hand, wanting to be judgmental, but not too judgmental. He wanted to be a platform. Anybody can publish here, but then we'll elevate the good stuff. I think that's exactly what the web needs. He just unfortunately didn't figure it out yet. It didn't figure out. He went from having native advertising to no advertising to the membership plan, and he never hit on the business model that was going to make it successful. By the way, Stumblebind was lead engineer, VP of engineering at Odeo.
Yeah, that's where I know the name. I remember Tony. He also wrote the for O'Reilly. Wrote the Pearl Handbook.
Of course.
I'm sorry, the Regular Expression Handbook. So the guy's a geek. He's a total geek. He wrote the Regular Expression Pocket Reference, and he's a Perl programmer. So that's an interesting choice. It almost feels like Ev's like saying, "Okay, fine, you do this. I've lost my mojo here."
And Ev's going to start a laboratory, and Ev's changed the world a couple times. Blogger's before
huge.
There was WordPress.
Huge.
It really set the tone. It really made it popular and made it possible. Twitter, we've been talking about for an hour and a half now. It's changed the world. Medium, not as much as the first two, but still had impact. I don't know anyone who has had much impact serially as Ev Williams.
And yet,
that's fair.
The complaint that absolutely fair is that he never could figure out a way to make Medium work. $5 a month didn't do it. He just couldn't quite. And that's, by the way, those are hard things to do. So that's and given his success, as you point out, with Blogger and Twitter, and to some degree, Medium inspired a lot of people. He deserves some credit. So I agree with you.
He turned, and I had this conversation with him. He turned. Rather adamantly against advertising. He first wanted to reform advertising. He thought he had a way to fix advertising, make it more relevant, make it less intrusive, make it decent, and he couldn't make that happen. Partly because he didn't have the scale to do it. And advertisers are stupid, and all they want is scale, even though that's passé. So then he gave up on it and tried to come up with a way to get the money from the people, and all God's children have paywalls now. So that's not the work.
Yeah.
I think there's a future. This is my blue sky rant, but I think there's a future in a curatorial layer as a premium layer. And I don't know where that goes. I don't know exactly what that means, but I think we're at the bare beginning. It's only 1480 in Gutenberg years.
Jeff, I have an update for you on one of your favorite topics. Ancillary copyright.
Woohoo!
Oh,
it's been a long time.
Leistungsschutzrecht.
It's been a long time. What's the... we should do a new segment. It's the ancillary copyright time.
No. I don't think we should make it a segment because the news actually on this, unusually, sit down, fasten your seatbelt. The news is kind of good, which is that the Copyright Office was considering whether ancillary copyright was an appropriate remedy for fixing whatever ails the news. And they decided, no, this is not a job for copyright law. And so, I haven't fully digested the report that they issued, which I think came out last week. But some commentators found that it was so persuasive that hopefully it takes the wind out of the sails of anything that Congress was trying to think of doing, that this was just an extra layer, not appropriately tailored for all the competing interests and just not a good idea. And they're like, this is not the place for copyright. And so they recommended that the copyright law does not get dragged into doing this. So hopefully, maybe at least in American law, let's not make this a feature, because maybe this is something that we can never speak of again.
I am going to regret asking this.
Set the clock now. Let's see how long she and I can go.
What are we talking? What is ancillary copyright?
Right. For those who didn't tune in for the other show where we spent half the show talking about it, although you were there, ancillary copyright was...
I'm asking for a friend, understand?
All right. Yeah. Okay. Ancillary copyright was essentially, we're talking link taxes. And the question is, could you sort of enforce that if a social media platform allowed users to link to other, or search engines, or a platform of some form, linked to a source of news somewhere else, that source that you ended up at somehow charge you for the right of having a link on your site to their site? And what's the leverage that you would use to do that? And let's think about whether copyright is the leverage. Ancillary copyright is copyright law the leverage to force a payment of some form? And so the Copyright Office said, no, copyright law should not be the thing that causes that to happen. Whether somebody tries another mechanism, but I'm not quite sure whether there are mechanisms in American law would be available to them. But other nations in the world think this is a perfectly good idea, even though it isn't, and are still trying to have their own link tax proposals, where if a platform allows a user to link to a news site, somehow the platform has to pay for the privilege, even though this gives the platforms audiences, and they need audiences because they're not making any money if they don't have audiences. If the publisher's audience.
Right. This is the cue the reggae beat, Leistungsrecht. It was the Spanish link tax. It is the new legislation, Articles 15 and 17 in the EU. And it kind of informed the Australian thing too. But the other part of this is it's not just about this idea that you took my headline and linked to me, you stole from me, you gave me nothing, which is a ridiculous economic argument that publishers try to make because they're so desperate because they've done nothing. The other part of this, it is an effort to resurrect the so-called hot news doctrine, which was an effort at the beginning of radio, and then again more recently to say, oh, if it's my story, if I got the story, you can't report it over a certain amount of time. Well, that's contrary to everything about copyright. Copyright says you cannot own the information. You can own only the treatment of it. So if you know that Hindenburg is selling long, or buying long on Twitter, that's a fact. Now, if I explain it particularly brilliantly and you take my explanation, yes, I can go to you for copyright. But the fact, you can't. However, the Associated Press was trying to say, no. If that's our story, we get to keep it for so many hours. They tried to prevent radio from even talking about news for 12 to 24 hours, saying the newspapers and the wire services owned that first, and it was an unfair acquisition of their value. And then AP and company tried to resurrect this again recently without success. And this copyright effort on the effort of publishers was a similar effort to do that. And I like Cathy, I applaud the Copyright Office.
Yeah, it was a good ruling, and it quoted me well. So, in the report.
Oh yes. Oh,
that's always neat. Like. For whoever's putting together my laminated card, we can throw that on the list.
Yes, that's a good one. Cited by the Pat Force.
Yeah, no, it's always, I got cited in a Congressional Research Service report. It's always nice of like you win by showing up, and it's always kind of nice like if all this work that I've been doing, like speaking to the record, actually makes a difference. And it may be like buried in reports that nobody else will ever read ever again, but my name is now etched in history. So
Cathy,
official documents. Yep.
It's God's work, and we thank you for it.
Oh, thank you.
Moving on from ancillary copyright to Google.
Oh, yeah.
On this show?
We're going to talk about Google? This week in ancillary copyright, although
we did have that as a show title.
That. Yes.
Diese Woche in Leistungsschutzrecht.
Yeah. Sundar Pichai sent out a memo to employees that, it's hard to imagine Google in hard times, right? The uncertain, he wrote, global economic outlook has been top of mind. Like all companies, we're not immune to economic headwinds. So he says, I want you to work harder. We are going to slow down our hiring process, slowing the pace.
But still hire
for the rest of the year. Yeah. But we'll focus on engineering, technical, and other critical roles and make sure the great talent we do hire is aligned with our long-term priorities. You mean you weren't doing that before? Okay, fine. But moving forward, Googlers, we need to be more entrepreneurial, working with greater urgency, sharper focus, and more hunger than we've shown on sunnier days.
So
how do you be entrepreneurial in a
snacks?
company that size?
I'm just glad to hear him say focus, because I tell you that's been his problem from day one. Google has
And
just
that has
been
been your
so
rallying cry.
ADD, and focus is all they need. It's all they need.
Well, but the focus you're looking for is a greater company focus.
Yes.
All this is going to do is make everybody focus harder on the one thing they're doing.
Hey, it's a start. He's planting the seed. That's all I'm asking. He's planting the seed.
I think he just wants
But
the
that's
worker ants to work a little bit harder.
But that's the shame for, like, again, what was good about Google at the outset. Like, they were encouraging, what was it, the 20% of your work week was
whatever
like
happened to
do
that?
something that
that's
wasn't your
right,
job.
into your own
And like,
side
and it
side
produced,
gigs.
I mean, it's partly why that Google was doing so many things, because it was producing a whole
Right.
lot of cool stuff.
Gmail,
So like
apps.
Gmail. Yeah, exactly. So like you kind of would want that back, but you don't get that by cracking the whip.
But put yourself in the position of an everyday Googler receiving that memo. What is the takeaway? What's your action item now?
I mean, the
free
takeaway
lunch?
to me is like, yeah, some of the snacks are going away.
Yeah,
like,
I feel like
there was
there's
a whole
gonna
lot of language in that. Like, be hungry. Well, we're taking away your snacks.
You know that 9-hour workday? How about 20? We should have mentioned Twitter played a big part in yesterday's January 6th hearing. They had a Twitter whistleblower with a deep voice and a obscured personality talking about, particularly about Trump getting special treatment at Twitter. The employee whose identity was kept secret was served on the content moderation team in 2020 and 2021. He said, if former President Donald Trump were any other user on Twitter, he would have been permanently suspended a very long time ago.
That's a very good rendition.
I can. Yeah.
Nice work, sir.
I can't
Nice
blur
work.
my face, but I can. I can do that. Apparently, people at Twitter were alarmed by the response to Trump's call for the Proud Boys at the debate to stand back and stand by. The Twitter employee said, my concern was that the former president, for seemingly the first time, was speaking directly to extremist organizations and giving them directives. On the social network, users responded as if it were a call to arms. It felt as if a mob was being organized and they were gathering together their weaponry and their logic and their reasoning behind why they were prepared to fight. So they're seeing all these tweets in response to what the president said at the debate. And then, of course, Be There, Be Wild, which was December 2020. According to the Twitter Insider, the responses on the social network alone were enough to suggest there was a potential for violence.
But let's think back. It's that the debate, the campaign is on. If Twitter had come out and shut down Donald
Couldn't do
Trump's account, there's no way.
Yeah, you
there's
can't
no way. So what
But how about Will Be Wild? How about December 19th? He's already been,
Even then.
until
until
the election.
January 6th was when it became safe to do it. Up and before that, I think it was nigh unto impossible.
The employee said the night before the insurrection, the employee said they could barely sleep featuring imminent violence. I was on pins and needles because, again, for months I had been begging and anticipating and attempting to raise the reality that if we made no intervention into what I saw occurring, people were going to die. On January 5th, I realized no intervention was coming.
Is there another person on the Twitter staff that could say the same thing that this person was saying? about the incident?
This is,
Is this someone with sour
offered
grapes?
This is offered in testimony in the January 6th.
And why was it anonymous? If it's a former employee, I don't understand why it had to be anonymous.
Oh, I mean the amount of what would fall on this person's head if they were known.
Yeah.
Like I could see, this doesn't strike me as sour grapes, where even if there's not unanimity, I think there was probably widespread concern, because I think the talking through of, okay, you're right, this is bad, but what can we do about it that won't also possibly precipitate a bad move? Like, this was a really tough situation. I don't think it's clear that Twitter could have acted in any particular way other than just sort of choosing the path of least resistance, because it wasn't really a default position, but as opposed to like you'd already sort of made the decision longer and you're just kind of continuing it a little bit. But it's a deliberate action, even if it wasn't ideal, but it's not clear what deliberate action could have been better.
Here's the damning sentence. Quote, I believe that Twitter relished in the knowledge that they were also the favorite and most used service of the former president and enjoyed having that sort of power within the social media ecosystem.
That reads a little bit more like the sour grapes a little bit, but I mean, I think if you're at the there's always sort of
what you need
is pride at the platform, because you're an important platform.
What you need is the smoking gun, the email from Twitter management to him saying, "Do not suspend President Trump's account. It's too valuable to us." But they didn't offer that at all. It's pretty much hearsay, right? He doesn't know.
And then so Joe Scarborough was screaming this morning about blaming everything on Twitter and Facebook again, because it just gives him an excuse to. And next thing, he'll go after Section 230, and Mike Masnick's head will explode.
Well, mine too.
I know, but Mike's a little more public in his living near the edge. He's like the guy who fell into Vesuvius.
No, I would like to. Masnick has more self-awareness than that.
Google has offered concessions to attempt to head off a possible U.S. antitrust lawsuit aimed at its ad tech businesses, according to the Wall Street Journal. Speaking to people familiar with the matter. As part of one offer, Google has proposed splitting parts of its business that auctions and places
but still staying under Alphabet
and apps into a separate company under the Alphabet umbrella. The entity could be potentially valued at tens of billions of dollars. That's what's so beautiful about these divisions. It just increases the overall value. It's not clear, the journal says, whether any offer short of actual asset sales would satisfy the Department of Justice, where antitrust officials have signaled a preference for deep structural changes to Google's ad tech business. It feels to me, just looking on the surface, that Google does kind of self-deal in their ad auction, where they are the buyer and the seller, both broker and auctioneer.
Even if they didn't, you have to ask and you have to wonder, and
they're
it looks
in a
like
position
so
to
they've got to.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So I think ultimately the DOJ
it's the right thing to do.
They're going to say, you can't be both. Pick one, and then sell.
Now, do you think they could keep it under Alphabet, or they'll be forced to sell?
No. They're going to. That's ridiculous. Alphabet doesn't.
Nice try, boys.
Yeah, nice try. Alphabet doesn't report this separately as separate companies. The Alphabet results are the Alphabet results. I don't. I don't think that would work. Anyway, we'll see. So this is the negotiation has begun, I guess. Any moves, the journal says, by Google to restructure part of its ad tech business could shake the digital advertising industry. Yes, that seems fair. Advertisers slated to spend more than $600 billion on digital ads worldwide this year, according to eMarketer. Last year, Google's business of brokering the sale of ads on other websites and apps accounted for $31.7 billion of revenue, 12% of the total. So it's a big part of their ad business.
The question, too, is how much do they take at each end of the transaction? It's a double dip, too.
Yeah. Do we care about the Nothing phone? I think they covered that thoroughly yesterday on All About Android. And since it will not be available in the U.S., who cares?
Right. Who cares?
Who cares? We don't care.
It's nothing to us.
If it's not America, who cares?
It's dead to me.
Jarvis, rim shot.
Although it's weird, these LEDs on the back. It's just weird.
Yeah, it is.
$299. The Nothing Phone 1. I'm sorry, 399 pounds. pounds, which is 475 USD. Just on sale July 21st.
Oh, you were talking about money. I thought you were talking about the weight of the phone. I'm like, this sounds
it is
practical.
so heavy, man.
Like, who wants that?
399 pounds. That's for 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage.
I know phones are getting big these days, but that just seemed excessive.
Heavy. Why is the pound not equal to $1? The euro is. Come on, England. You're getting.
It's coming down.
Falling back.
It's coming down.
Yeah. Falling behind. I don't think we care about the nothing phone.
No.
Do we care about, this is in the New York Post, so I know we don't, but it was it was a great picture of skateboarders swarming Google's Waymo vehicle and trashing it in San Francisco on Saturday night.
San Francisco is out of control.
Vehicle was not autonomous, according to Motherboard, at the time of the incident, so that means there was somebody inside driving.
The driver managed to get out to safety.
Yeah.
Before the full
I feel like this is a beginning of what we're going to see a lot of. Don't you think?
Well, it's my friend Doug Rushkoff's book title, Throwing Rocks at the Google Bus.
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who drives an electric vehicle, very frequently there's passive-aggressive hostility against electric vehicles. People park their big trucks in the charging spots. They deface and break the chargers.
Why do they hate you? Because it's woke driving? What is
woke
argument?
Yeah, you nailed it. Woke driving. There's just this thing, I don't get it
woke
either.
At the wheel.
I don't get it. Actually, according to Bloomberg, electric vehicles have passed the tipping point in the U.S. 5% of new car sales now are EVs, and in other countries where adoption has hit 5%, it's the bottom of the hockey stick. It's when it starts to take off. Probably the price of gasoline doesn't hurt that easy.
And by the way, Mr. Musk, you're going to have lots more competition.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, Tesla's not even
Thank
the number
goodness.
one manufacturer of electric vehicles anymore. It's China's BYD. So Bloomberg Saturday said once 5% of new car sales go fully electric, everything changes. And 19 other countries that this has happened in, you see this kind of hockey stick effect. If the U.S. follows the trend, a quarter of new cars will be fully electric in 2025 in just 3 years.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I think that's good. Look at that. I didn't realize Norway is almost 90%.
Did your dear wife's Mini ever get fixed?
It's all good. It's working fine.
Okay.
So now
I'm
we
still
have...
fine with all of this push, but we better fix infrastructure over here in California with all of the brownouts.
Yep.
Well, there's some good news there. You're not talking about chargers. You're talking about just electricity.
Electricity in general.
Yeah.
It's AC turns on for most of the people in their homes, and then their power is out.
Right.
Just really.
Well, okay, so that's
Gotta fix
interesting
that.
because whose problem is that? Is that because there's so many electric vehicles? No, it's because we have a for-profit entity. Entities running our electrical grid. In our area, it's Pacific Gas and
Say
Electric.
their name.
Yeah, PG&E. And PG&E's business is not providing electricity at a low cost. It's building power plants. So, for instance, when you get solar panels, PG&E will not let you put solar panels in excess of the amount you use. Right. They don't want you generating in competition with them. But from the point of view of EV owners and society in general, hell, everybody should have as many solar panels as their roof can hold. If you want to do that, you should be allowed to do that.
Should be allowed to, at least. Your choice.
Wait. You could you can install more. You just can't send the electricity back up the line.
No.
You can't even install them?
No.
How is that regulated?
Because it's connected to the grid. Yeah, you're right. If we were off grid, we could do whatever we want.
Off grid, you can do whatever you want. Okay, right.
But we are still on grid. Because you have to be on grid because if the sun doesn't shine,
you still need a little trickle.
If you have, we have big batteries, we have Tesla Powerwalls, and the idea is I'd love not to be on grid at all, but no, everybody's on grid so if you're on the grid, then PG&E gets to say what's going on.
What a delightful company!
Although this is still better than Texas, where I mean, it's actually interesting because I think the Ford F-150 has an electric version of itself that apparently can power a house. So I wonder if that will actually drive adoption, because if you live in Texas, you might need your truck. You got a truck, you like a Ford,
heard of some
and it might power your house.
That.
Right. You could actually
California's doing that here recently. Because
technically do that with any vehicle. If you had an inverter, you could take the DC power from the battery and power.
I think it was a question of capacity, that the capacity was such that it had enough to power the house. Whereas I think a smaller car might not be able to do quite that much, but you could probably drain something off of it, because you could at least plug into your light, I suppose, or something.
So let me see. The F-150 battery is 145 kilowatt hours. My battery on my Ford Mustang is 88 kilowatt hours. It's not quite. It's more than half that. It's enough to power the house for a little while. Maybe not for weeks.
That's awesome.
What's your home charger? Is it still your old Tesla home charger?
Yeah. We just have a
just adapter.
Yeah, it's the same plug. It's a NEMA 1450, the same kind of plug that your dryer has or your RV
it's 240,
has.
right?
Uh-huh.
And it's 240. It's on ours is on a 50 amp circuit, I think. But it only delivers 32 amps to the vehicle. So yeah, you just have to have the right, adapter to plug it into the car. We have two of those. We have two NEMA 1450s on each side of the garage, so because we have 3 electric vehicles. There's actually a competition for the chargers. But because we have 60 solar panels and we generate a huge amount of electricity, we're not taxing the California grid to charge our cars up. We generate
when you lose power, as happens in California, how long can you run the house on the battery power?
We have 2 of the big Tesla power walls. So obviously we'd want to shut down things. We wouldn't be charging our cars at that point. So it really depends on how much, you've got turned on. But we could go, in theory, my whole idea, and I think if we got one more power wall, we could for sure do this, is to just get through the night until the sun comes out. Then we charge up some more. Because we can run off the sun plus charge the batteries. Don't tell PG&E that. We kind of did a loophole thing. We got a certain amount, the amount they would let us. Then they say, well, if after 6 months you're using more than that, than we were, because we suddenly had all these electric vehicles, you can apply to get more. So we put another 30 panels on. So we've slowly kind of increased. Pretty much the whole roof is covered.
Plus, you could connect some panels to your power wall only.
In theory, although, we don't. It doesn't do that. I don't know. Might be beyond me. I don't know. Let's see. I'm going through. Let's do one more break, and then we do have a change log. Cathy has some good articles I want to talk about. The Copia Institute, vulnerable people. We did the Leitsung
and played the reggae.
Yeah, and played the reggae. The Inform Act. Probably should go after that one. I want to talk about the Juul cigarette ban.
Ooh.
Because it kind of bugs me, to be honest with you. I understand.
Your libertarians coming out.
I want to hear your thoughts on that.
If the FDA wants to ban something, ban tobacco.
There we go.
Why are they banning e-cigs and not tobacco? I'll tell you why.
It's called profit?
No, they're not allowed.
Profits?
No, they're not allowed to ban tobacco. They're not allowed because Big Tobacco got a law passed that said, oh, you can't ban tobacco. Thank you, R.J. Reynolds. But so meanwhile, the FDA can regulate the tobacco industry, but with certain limitations. For instance, nicotine in cigarette products cannot be banned. Flavorings like mint and fruit can. So at first the FDA banned fruit-flavored Juuls, and I think that's appropriate because the issue is, I think e-cigarettes are a better choice for smokers. If you're burning tobacco to get your nick fix,
if you need the nicotine,
you should be using an e-cigarette. All the evidence is that's much better for you than burning the tobacco. The problem is with these fruit flavors, you get kids for the first time smoking using e-cigarettes. Yeah. So that is, and I understand that's why they banned it, but it pisses me off that it's completely legal to sell Marlboros, but not Juuls. is just mind-boggling. And by the way, there's another loophole. The only reason you can't sell Juuls is because they're refillable. You can sell disposable e-cigs. They're not banned.
What do you think about FDA proposing to ban menthol cigarettes?
That's fine. If that is it because it attracts kids?
Well, it's because it's flavored, but it's also an issue that menthol ranks higher with black consumers
in the black
than white
community.
Consumers. Yep.
Why is it more popular in the black community? Is it actively sold to black consumers? I know there's ads for Cools, billboards outside of stores and black communities.
I couldn't tell you why, but I know that's all that's ever smoked. In the communities I've been in, is populated by black people. It was menthols. It was never the Marlboros.
If you can't buy the menthols, if you can't buy your Cools, you're going to stop smoking? Hell no.
No. Probably not.
No, you're just going to get Lucky Strike, means fine tobacco. You're just going to change to you're not going to get Newports, you're going to get Marlboros or whatever. My favorites are Spirits because they're natural. They're natural.
So's the dirt you'll be buried in.
Yeah. Honestly, Juul, which is not owned by Big Tobacco, is probably getting punished because they are not owned by Big Tobacco, whereas many of these other e-cigs are owned by R.J. Reynolds and others.
Well, if Juul goes away, does the e-cig go away or just Juul?
Any refillable goes away.
I see.
I guess. Vuse, V-U-S-E, and Puff Bar are flavored disposable products, which are actually more popular than Juul with kids. You might wonder, well, golly, who makes Vuse? I believe that's R.J. Reynolds.
Oh, good. So we've also got extra waste in addition to the smoking problem.
Yeah, let's throw them away, too. So, it's more complicated. I understand you don't want to get kids who are non-smokers smoking. I understand that. That's a bad thing.
Plus, the thing about Juul, before I understood what Juul was, I saw it more in Europe, I think, and in Mexico. I'd go by a mall and see the store and say, wow, I don't know, what's that product? It looks so cool.
Yes.
And I realized it's Juul. The design was
That's how it works.
sleek.
Perfect marketing.
I'm just wondering how many kids pick up smoking because of the culinary experience involved with it. Like, I'm not entirely sure this is the driving factor.
Well,
I suppose if it doesn't taste
flavors. They like smelling like mango.
And the look of the puff of smoke that they blow out, all of that's
but that's extra things. Like, there's other ancillary things you think you're getting if you're smoking. And I suppose if it doesn't taste disgusting to you, you're more likely to continue, but then again, people were continuing even when it did taste disgusting. So I don't know. I don't think it's a driving force to pick it up. It just might be a slightly sticking force once you have picked it up. But I don't think they're doing it because, it tastes like this, because we already had gum. So like, if you just wanted the flavor experience, there were a lot less like poisonous ways to ingest it.
So true.
But look at these delicious flavors of Puff Bar. By the way, this is from the esteemed journal TobaccoReporter.com. The Puff Bar, which is owned by Patrick Beltran and Nick Minas, they're not owned by a Big Tobacco, unlike Vuse, is legal because it's disposable. Comes in flavors like Lush Ice, Strawberry, Lychee, Blue Raspberry, Peach, Tangerine. I figure if I'm going to get a nicotine delivery system and it tastes like tangerine,
get more.
Get more. Is nicotine, this is another question I don't know the answer, is obviously smoking a cigarette causes cancer, heart disease. It'll kill you. We know this. And perhaps, vaping is bad for you, although that's not immediately clear.
The connections with COVID were not good. You were more vulnerable to worse symptoms, especially in the first ones that attack your lungs more. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Is nicotine per se bad for you? It's a mood alterer. It usually
it can cause an increase in blood pressure, heart rate, flow of blood to the heart, and narrowing of the arteries. I'm reading.
So does a hot
Heart
dog,
Association.
by the way. In fact, according
to that pizza I just shoved down
hot
my
dog,
yap an hour ago.
Every hot dog costs you 30 minutes of your life. They're not
hardening of
illegal.
arterial walls.
Yes, but I think the point is it also delivers a benefit, which is nutrition, whereas what is nicotine actually giving you?
That may be debatable.
Oh, lawyers are no fun.
I've just been handed some laminated cards.
Didn't I tell you it'll be before the end of the day?
Catherine R. Gellis, Esquire. And Aunt, we got one for you, too.
Good enough. Simple.
It just says Aunt. But
I love it.
It's good. It's
I
good.
love it.
So now everybody's got laminated. Thank you. Thank you to the laminators.
That is an impressive operation to laminate quite so quickly.
We have a laminator here, huh? I'm going to bring some stuff in. Anyway, I understand why you ban them. I really do. You don't want to get kids smoking, et cetera, et cetera. But I feel like if you really wanted to do some good, you should ban cigarettes. But can they do that? No.
They should be able to.
No.
I was.
Who do we vote for to make that not happen?
And I feel bad for this company, Juul, which actually, really did some, they did it all right. They marketed it. They made a beautiful product. All right. Anyway.
I think that's the criticism of them. They marketed.
They were
successful. So it was kind of like, they were kind of, if they were sort of and they might have made some bad decisions, but if they were just kind of in the shadows of like, it's not smoking, or something like that as an alternative. I don't know. I think they just were too popular and it blew up in them.
Juul, by the way, was eventually bought by Altria, which is the cleverly disguised name of Philip Morris. But, if I made tobacco cigarettes, I absolutely would say, well, what's next? Let's. They invested $12.8 billion in Juul. Yeah, all the tobacco comes from Kakalaki, doesn't it?
North Kakalaki in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. One of my favorite episodes of Mad Men, I think it's like the second episode. They're trying to save the tobacco company, which is their big client. There's an ad agency in Mad Men, and Don, who's just the best ad guy ever, talks to the executive. Well, what is it? How do you make your cigarettes? And he says, well, we pick the tobacco and we toast, then we cook it, and then we put it up. And he says, oh, so it's toasted. Well, yeah, we cook it in the oven. It's toasted. That's it. That's our slogan.
Beautiful. It's freaking.
And the guy says, "Well, but every cigarette is toasted." No, only whatever. Yeah. Winston, it's toasted. And
I love that.
It's a great episode to watch because the problem these cigarette companies have is that now people know it's killing you. Mm-hmm. Like this is at the period in the early '60s when it's starting to come out. These cause cancer. And the cigarette companies can no longer, with a straight face say 4 out of 5 doctors recommend that you smoke Winston's. So they need some other, benefit. And they're desperate because they got nothing. They're all the same. It's a commodity product, obviously. It's toasted. All right, now let's take a break.
Now to our sponsor, Juul.
Juul. I will be glad to know that I've refused e-cigarette advertising all along. We never allowed that, even though we were offered it many times. Not because, I'm not against e-cigarettes. My daughter, who smoked cigarettes, I really pushed hard to go to vaping, which she did, and then she quit. So it was a success story for her. And she hasn't smoked in a year. So it was really
pat her on the back.
It was a very big success story. You know what finally did it was she found out that her great-grandfather, my dad's dad, died of lung cancer at 53. And that was kind of the end of the story on that. She said, I'm never smoking again.
Very young.
Yeah. She does eat at least a hot dog a day, though, so I'm still worried. No.
We're not going to discuss my diet.
She got him at Costco?
Costco has pledged they will not raise the price of the Costco hot dog, even though they have raised the price of, what is that chicken thing they do?
Oh, no, I thought it was still $5.
No, they raised the price on the chicken, but not the hot dog. Which tells you something about the hot dog.
And the hot dog, by the way, is bigger than your normal hot dog.
Oh, it's a giant.
It's an inflated hot dog.
I believe the chicken bake went up, but not the hot dog. And then the CEO of Costco has pledged.
Eric Duckman in the chat says it's like $8 now.
Yeah, chicken bake's $8. Yeah, chicken bake, not cheap.
What, chicken bake?
Oh, you've never had a
Call it? Oh, no, we have it
inflation
constantly.
gone wild.
constantly.
Costco raising prices for its chicken bake and 20-ounce soda. You want something that'll kill you fast? A chicken bake and a 20-ounce soda.
It's a roasted chicken. It's a fine thing.
Sure, it's a chicken
great.
breast with bacon and Caesar dressing baked inside a cheesy bread loaf.
Oh no. That's
Oh,
okay. That's
boy,
not
talk to
the chicken.
Oh yeah,
No,
I
that's
thought
not
it was
the
the
chicken.
rotisserie chicken.
Oh, no.
The rotisserie chicken is $5.
No. Fortunately, it's loaded with salt, which means that 20-ounce soda is a deal.
Is required.
It's required. But for some reason, the hot dog and soda combo is going to stay $1.50. I don't know why. Might have something to do with the cost of a hot dog.
Or the economy. It's a generous act because there's the Costco hot dog index. It's always at 100, and if it goes up, then watch out.
This is from Mental Floss. When Costco President W. Craig Jelinek once complained to Costco co-founder and former CEO Jim Sinegal that their monolithic warehouse business was losing money on their famously cheap $1.50 hot dog and soda package, Sinegal listened, nodded, and then did his best to make his take on the situation perfectly clear. If you raise the price of the effing hot dog, I will kill you, Sinegal said. Figure it out. So
That's
as a result,
management style.
That's a management style. The price has never been raised since 1984. Quarter pound,
So-
all beef tube.
Inflation adjuster. So 1984.
1984 was $1.50. That includes the soda, 20 ounces. Actually, it's probably cheaper if you buy the hot dog and soda and then buy the chicken bake.
So that is $29 no, I'm sorry, that's $4.28.
It's $29 hot dog day.
It's a 4 1/4 hot dog.
Yeah, see?
I mean, I know Biden's getting roasted on the 9.1 statistic, but I don't think it's a $29 hot dog.
Yeah.
No, it was I spoke too soon. I was putting before I put the period in between the 1 and the 5.
The theory is if the customer buys the $1.50 hot dog just before leaving their store, they're left with a lasting impression of being treated well.
Yeah, they got a memory of the hot dog, that's for sure, in the visit.
Well, it's basically a coupon off of your total purchase price.
That's what it is.
So
It's a
they
money
know
loser.
what the average
Yeah.
purchase
Yeah.
is and what percentage of it is where it's like, oh, shop here, 10% off. So I don't know, whatever the average thing is.
Costco
But
sells more hot dogs than all Major League Baseball stadiums combined.
Wow.
100 million hot dogs a year.
Wow. Hot dog.
Good for them.
Hot dog. When California recently enacted a soft drink tax that would have raised the consumer's cost, Costco locations in California switched to include Diet Pepsi because diet drinks are exempt.
Nice.
So there you go. There's everything you ever want to know about the chicken bake, the hot dog, the giant tube of delicious meat leftovers.
And according to Mr. Burke, nice beef ribs are at Costco too.
Oh,
They're
all right.
Pre-made.
Burke
so I
knows
need
ribs.
to-
He's from Texas.
Well, here's the other thing.
Exactly. So I need to make the trek.
Yeah.
Yesterday was Taco Tuesday. There is a make-it-yourself taco kit at Costco. Quite a thing. Nice chicken, veggies, cheese,
What do you
2
need
salsas.
What do you
Wait
need
a
to
minute.
make it yourself
You need a
hot dog
kit?
kit?
No. Taco.
Oh,
kit.
taco. Okay.
Taco kit.
That's the beauty of the hot dog. It's a simple dish.
It's made.
It's
Yes.
made.
So is a taco.
Doesn't even need to be cooked. I remember as a kid, I had a friend who would eat hot dogs raw out of the package. He said,
Yeah,
"No, they're cooked.
my family
they're
does
pre-cooked.
that.
They're pre-cooked."
My family does that.
Really?
You know, I grew up on Vienna sausages and potted meat, so popping in Oscar Mayer straight out the pack was
You got to be mighty hungry to eat that hot dog cold out of the
normal,
fridge.
bro.
I just say,
totally normal. I'd do it today if I had to, but I choose not to. But yeah,
Only
those
if
are
I
totally
had to.
normal days.
Pop
You've learned
that
a
dog.
different way.
Grandma, I'm hungry. Here, eat this weenie and pull it straight out the pack.
Wow. Let's take a little break. Cathy Gellis. Wait a minute. Catherine R. Gellis, Esquire, is here. Former internet professional webmaster, now assisting clients with legal issues relating to the digital age. Also,
Well, you left out that she was cited by the U.S. Copyright Office. That was the whole point.
yeah. It also says
Laminate it again, guys.
It also says currently using Ethernet.
And I still got dropped.
It still got dropped.
I mean, I hate the internet. What am I an internet lawyer for? This technology is just forsaking me.
I know, really. Come on. Also with us from Hands On Photography, Ant. And Pruitt.
The share of the TWiT network.
And by the way, we had a scheduled on Thursday. We had for the Club TWiT. We had a event with Alex Lindsay. He has been called by a higher power, so he will not be available for that event. We will reschedule.
Yeah, I'll figure out a date.
Yeah, that's fine. July 28th.
That was actually a scary way to say it.
He's been called.
Yeah. Unless you're Padre.
Higher power.
I was in the brick. I
just caught that.
I was in the TWiT cottage, and I was telling my wife, someday I'll be working up there. And she said, "Oh God, no, I hope not," because I pointed up. No, I said I meant upstairs. I didn't mean. Anyway, members fireside chat coming up July 28th, 9 a.m. And Ant's going to be planning lots more events. Of course, we've got Stacy's book club. I've been reading the book. It's good. Did you read it yet?
I started it today because I just finished Termination Shock yesterday or day
congratulations.
Before yesterday. And I did enjoy Termination Shock.
Really? After all that, it was okay?
I did enjoy it.
There's a good book review of it. I think it's in Slate Star Codex. I can't remember. The Astral 10 Codex blog. But I'll pass it along to you because it talks
There's
about...
a book I'm listening to now I think you all might like.
What's that?
Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. John Green went berserk over it. And I listened to him.
Of John and Hank fame?
Yeah, of John, right. And it's... where the hell is it? There we go. It is by Gabrielle Zevin. It's about 3 friends who make video games through a period of their lives and their relationships and so on. And it's really good, which leads me to a question, actually, because I feel this made me really feel that I'm missing out on a whole chunk of culture because I don't play games. So I have this question for you.
Mm-hmm.
What game should I do? Now, I don't like shoot 'em ups, and I don't want to drive stuff around. The last game I played was Myst. That gives you an idea how long it's been.
Jeez, dude.
And what are you going to play it on? You're going to play it on your Mac? What are you going to play it on?
I can play it on the Mac, on your Mac. Yes, it's your Mac.
Or do you have other things you could play it on?
Chromebook.
No Mac. Okay. So we need some on Mac. Okay. We're going to take a break.
Emulator.
Everybody come up with an idea for Jeff, his first game. Since Myst.
Grandpa.
Yeah. There have been a lot of interesting choices out there. Our show today brought to you by CashFly. How do we know CashFly is so good? We've been using them. You're using them right now. We've been using them for 10 years. Whenever you download one of our podcasts, audio or video, you're getting it from CashFly. And because CashFly has 50-plus locations around the globe, points of presence, they call it, you're going to get the content from a server that's near you, which means it's fast. In fact, CashFly gives you the best throughput and global reach. And CashFly offers not just downloads, but they are now doing ultra-low latency video streaming. This is amazing. You can go live in hours, not days, with sub-1 second latency. Ditch that unreliable WebRTC solution for their WebSocket live video workflow that is scalable to millions of users. Ultra-low latency video streaming, less than 1 second latency. Imagine that. And, of course, again, you reach your audience anywhere in the world because with all those points of presence, your audience is closer. Plus, if you use CashFly's storage optimization system, we do, you'll reduce your bandwidth and increase your cache hit ratio to 100% because instead of storing your content, offloading it to an origin server, you keep it on CashFly's servers where it's available immediately. Reduce your origin server usage, your S3 bills and the like. Speed up transport and always be available. I think that's a fantastic solution. We've been using that for years. I think unofficially, I don't think they call it the storage optimization system. They just very kindly let us store our stuff on the CashFly servers. That makes a big difference. You ought to check that out. Plus, fully managed CDN solutions. CashFly's elite managed packages give you VIP treatment, 24/7 support, and response times less than an hour. CashFly is just the best. Lightning fast gaming, Downloads are faster, zero lag, glitches, or outages. Mobile content optimization offers automatic and simple image optimization, so your site loads faster on any device. You get multiple CDNs for redundancy and failover, which intelligently balances your traffic across multiple providers, giving you the shortest routes, mitigating against performance glitches. It works so well, in fact, that over the last 12 months, CashFly has a 100% availability. That's amazing. 30% faster than other major CDNs, 98% cache hit ratio, 10 times faster than traditional methods. They're on 6 continents. You ought to be on CashFly. CashFly, call them right now. Learn more. 24/7, 365 priority support. They're always there when you need them. Cashfly.com. How many times have you heard me say it? Bandwidth for This Week in Google is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com. Thank you, CashFly. We really, really appreciate it. Let's do the Google changelog.
The Google changelog.
The last major release of Android 13, Beta 4, is out for Pixel phones, and anybody who is on the beta plan, that means we're close to Android 13. In fact, Ant, you might want to try it on your Pixel 6, because I'm hearing now that we're really close to release, it's very stable. And a lot of people say it's better. No? Okay.
We don't even get the production versions right. No.
Okay. No. All right. Good deals
That's like
right
the
now.
Ant version of 1 star on Yelp.
Yep.
Just that expression.
What is it? Doesn't Jordan Peele have a movie called Nope?
That's it.
Nope.
Sure does. Nope.
Nope. Not going to do it. Right now is a good time, though. I know. Do you like are you happier with your Pixel 6 now, Ant? Are you?
I am. They did fix some things over the last several months and the different patches and whatnot, but it still just frustrates the crap out of me that the production version was so buggy on day one. It's just not cool.
Well, if you've been thinking about Pixel 6, I'm seeing discounts all over. Amazon Prime discount down to $499. That's $400 off. I think you're going to...
6 or 6.
That's a fair deal.
That's the 6. I think the 6XL or 6 Pro is also being mightily discounted. The 6A is due soon.
The good news, Ant, is now Googlers are hungry, so that should work out well for the next generation.
They have
They're
incentive
focused
now.
Yeah.
Get more. They get more snacks when they get that product out the door.
No snacks for you.
Or apparently they're taking away the snacks to hope, that they're not like wasting their time eating the snacks instead of building a better
Pay attention.
phone.
Work harder.
Focus.
Oh, it's already sold out, Scooter X says. Never mind. But keep your eye peeled because Prime Day continues. And it's not just Prime Day. If you go to the Google store, I see $200 off and things. The Google Duo merger with Meet starts rolling out today.
Oh, jeez.
Oh. No.
What was the name finalized on?
Meet.
It's just Meet? Okay.
Just Meet. There are some new features, oddly, in Duo. A handful of users are seeing Duo is getting even better just under the search field. Your Duo app will become Meet with a new name and icon and more features like background effects after tapping the Fab floating action button, which drops call and just says new. You now have options to create a new meeting and schedule in Google Calendar. That's the Meet side.
Why?
I agree.
So I think I said that before, but and I was thinking about this in the earlier conversation about Twitter and stuff, where one of the things that it did really well is it followed its users, like the whole way that the apps end up hyperlinks, because that was behavior that users were doing. So they built the tool around it. Being responsive to your users and understanding what your users need and how they interact with your product seems like it really should be at the top of the list of what you're building for. And I'm not sure it is. And I think that's coming back to haunt everybody because you get more consumer dissatisfaction, which then turns into more regulatory pressure, which turns into bad laws that end up impinging on innovation that would actually make better products. So not doing it terribly from the outset and paying attention to who your audience is and what you're building and who you're building it for. That really needs to be a bigger priority than I think it is.
We would, but they took away the Slim Jims.
Maybe that's the trick. I don't know.
I got low blood sugar. I can't. Well spoken, Cathy Gellis. I agree 100%.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah, well spoken.
Preach.
Well said. There's nothing you just want to shake them. Shake them and say, come on, get together.
Well, I've given that lecture before, like in lawyer CLEs, like talking to product counsel, like don't piss off your users, because if they get upset and they don't have market pressure to get something better from you, they're going to go to their regulators, and the regulators eventually will respond, and it's probably not going to be good. So like the fact that you can legally build crappy products right now shouldn't be what you give yourself permission to do. You should really try much harder not to. And I'm not sure the design steps are in place to be responsive enough to your audience and understand it, where they're going to be able to architect things that are actually more successful products that irritate their users much less than they currently do.
But you don't think anybody gets up in the morning and says, well, I'm going to make a crappy product today?
No, I think they get myopic. I mean, before I became a lawyer, I was a webmaster, and I mean, websites are still bad, but that says it. Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. See, the card doesn't lie. So the point with the webmaster is like there were a lot of bad websites, and to build a good website, it wasn't that there was one right way to do it, but you had to ask questions like, who's your audience? What do they need to know? What are they going to like look for? And it wasn't that there's right answers, but you have to ask the questions, because that'll organize your decisions so you can produce something that is like hopefully going to do the job, because you've put some thought into what the job is. So the problem is myopia tends to set in for people with the power to cook up really cool things, because you get very insulated in what you're thinking about and what you want to see, and you build for that, but that isn't your market necessarily. And unless you've got the discipline to think harder about your market and respond to it in proper ways. There's a lot of like superficial ways that people respond to markets, but to really respond to it in a meaningful way and understand it, it takes effort and resources to do it, but it's absolutely effort and resources that are well spent. You have better products, happier customers, better product market entrenchment, and you don't piss off regulators who can come back to slap your hand. Although if your competitors piss them off, then they may still come by. But at least if you put other products in the market, you'll also succeed in the market much better than if you just ram poorly designed ones down people's throats, because you can.
Word.
Yeah.
Google One. Did anybody subscribe to? I subscribe to Google One.
I do too.
I think I do.
If you have a 2 terabyte plus plan, here's a nice new feature for your Meet/Duo. Meet video features no 1 hour group limit, for instance. So they're going to add, I think this is a kind of
nice
a little come on for you to maybe do more with Meet, right? Google's, I did that one. Google Compose window update adds profile avatars, right-click menu, and more. That's in the Gmail Compose window. So you can you do some settings there. It also is getting better at noting whether you're trying to add a recipient that's already in the email. Say, no, you already did that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Chromecast.
I do like when it suggests like, hey, do you want to add this other person because they were a part of the conversation as well?
Oh, that's a good feature, isn't it?
I've seen that a time or two. Instead of, because I am one that hates reply all. If I don't necessarily have to tell everybody, just tell the person that matters. But there was a message today that I replied to, and it suggested, hey, do you want to add this person? And I did, because it worked for that time.
I was actually just on a hysterical reply all thread. Somebody, I won't name names, but a product was soliciting YouTube creators to do videos about this product. Sent out an email to 600 creators. I was on that list, offering them $300 to $600 to do a feature of this, and a number of the YouTube creators replied all. So I kind of got a little peek.
I bet those are hilarious.
Yeah, a little peek into the exciting world of YouTube scamming. I guess it's not scamming. I mean, you have to disclose and all that stuff. And then the funniest thing is then another company, which apparently was already on this list, sent out an email to the entire list saying, hey, just so you should know that, if you are a creator, you should be getting more money than this, and we can help you. I was going to
say, it sounds like lowballing. Lowballing. Ooh, not scam, lowball.
What a mess. I should find that. It'd be fun to read. YouTube is finally rolling out picture-in-picture for iPhone and iPad. Somebody sent us an email saying your podcasts aren't working. The YouTube thinks it's music, and apparently won't do that for music. But we checked. Our settings are correct. These shows are correctly marked. So maybe this is just a glitch in the early days of PIP. But
it works fine in Android.
Yeah. It's something iPhone
have.
is only, and iPad have just recently added picture-in-picture. You might have to turn it on in your general settings. But that means you can continue to watch. Oh, and you also have to be a YouTube Premium member, of course.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah. Yep. It's available to free users, but only for non-music content. Maybe that's why that guy was complaining. Anyway, Chromecast with Google TV, its first update of the year. Build QTS 1.220.504.008. Platform improvements to help some apps with HDR 4K video playing and DRM video playback. Additional bug fixes, improvement over Wi-Fi Bluetooth. I love, actually, my Chromecast with Google TV. That is a really great device, and I use it all the time. So I welcome the update. $49, although apparently it's discounted $10 now if you shop around.
Is it Google TV is not YouTube TV? I always get confused.
Yeah, no, Google TV is like Android TV.
It's like the OS-ish.
Yeah, it's their TV interface. Yeah.
I hate the last three sentences that have just gone past. Like, this makes no sense. Like, how does one orient themselves in a world where it's TV, it's online TV, but not this brand TV, not this brand online TV, even though they're all owned by the same company? Like, this is ridiculous. And it causes confusion. And I don't think the confusion is it's not negligible. And it causes problems like cybersecurity problems. Like, if everyone's confused about what products they're using and why and how to control their logins and their subscriptions, like, I think this is causing consumer confusion even among sophisticated consumers. This is not good. I think, I don't know. Get off my lawn.
Are you saying it needs some focus? Is that what you're saying?
Coherence, something? Yeah.
Well, I agree with you, Cathy Gellis, Esquire. I think you're exactly right. You know why? Because on the radio show, I get calls from people all the time who are utterly confused, baffled, bewildered, frustrated by this. And all I say to them is, like in a lot of, whenever you have an incumbent business being completely disrupted by the internet, it's a mess. As everybody readjusts their business models and, companies get aggregated, they go out of business. It's just a mess. And the TV business is very much in the middle of that right now. Although, if you look at the Emmy Awards, the nominations, streaming, really big success. So, streaming is here. I mean, very, very clearly, right?
To further confuse Cathy, YouTube TV has 5 million plus users, more than
the biggest
Hulu's live TV service.
The biggest.
It's now the biggest.
Yep. I was thinking of moving because I saw on Reddit somebody posted bandwidth usage by the different streaming TV services. And Hulu was by far a higher bandwidth usage, which usually goes along with higher quality image. And YouTube TV wasn't very good. But then I saw a tweet from somebody who said I couldn't watch the Formula One race on my Hulu TV. And that's when I said I'm staying with YouTube.
No. Hold on. Let me correct it. I couldn't watch it on my Hulu TV because I killed the live TV subscription. That's why I turned it off because I'm not watching any live TV anymore, and I was only watching the F1 stuff. That was it. So
were you using the DVR or trying to watch it live?
I was trying to watch it live when I could wake up.
It's like 6 in the morning or something.
Yeah, It's really early, but I'm usually up.
This is bad. This is why killing off Lowcast was a problem, because you've got all these. Spectrum is public. You've got a whole bunch of stations that need to use the public airwaves to get to audience if they're going to make any money via advertising from having it watched. And I know they're like all competing for like the carry fees, but that's not enough because people are turning it off. So if live TV is still going to be a meaningful medium for people, we need a way to access it. And copyright law has killed off all the rent and antenna services. So unless you want to cough up the money, and like Ant is deciding it's just not worth the money and he's not alone to decide, well, I just don't watch it enough, then people won't watch it at all. And I just don't see why the over-the-air stations sued out of oblivion the necessary tools that people needed to watch them at all. Like, this was just so suicidal on behalf of these stations.
Yeah,
and terrible for copyright law and the public interest and public spectrum. And
it's crazy because I've been practicing this, quote unquote, practicing this for several years now. I will cut cable until football season. And my family got used to me doing that. We didn't have any television until football season come around because none of us watched anything live. It was a total waste of money. And then when I totally cut cable out and started latching on to these streaming services that added live capability, I saw, I'm still not watching it much. So let me just save these extra $50 to $60 a month until football
Did you
season.
like Hulu TV? Just out of curiosity, I've been a YouTube TV subscriber, but I would like I said,
I really like it. Other than their interface still stinks. Because I did try YouTube TV as well after I had originally started with Hulu Live TV, and YouTube I didn't care for it. It started screwing up my regular YouTube viewing habits because I guess it was feeding my live TV information from my YouTube account to my desktop watching stuff. And I didn't necessarily want that algorithm mixed up.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
So
I'm happy with YouTube TV. I like the DVR, and that's what I do. I told it once I liked F1, and now it records all the F1 races, and it's just I can always watch them, and it's nice. So it's not easy to skip commercials on YouTube TV. I don't know if Hulu has a skip button. Yeah, TV has a skip button. So what I found out though, this is good. If you watch YouTube TV, and I bet it would work with Hulu TV on an Apple TV, you can tell Siri to skip a certain amount of time. So what you do is you figure out how long the breaks are, and you could say, hey, Siri, skip 2 minutes, and it skips right through the break.
Nice hack, sir.
Yeah, and you pretty quickly learn what the various network break lengths are and so forth.
We do appreciate our advertisers here at
never do that on a podcast. That would be foolish.
Because you want to hear all the funny things that are said.
Yes.
Manually chosen advertising is one thing.
That's true.
Ads I saw on my Roku that stemmed from other things about me based on online activity or phone calls or something like that scared the crap out of me, given geopolitical situation. In fact, the national situation. This was stuff that I had looked into that now whatever streaming service I was using thinks I wanted to learn more about. It wasn't necessarily wrong, but I did not want anybody else in the universe to know that it was something I cared about. And it's now dangerous to me if somebody else in the universe knows that I was interested in pursuing more information about some of these things. This is a big problem that we're really going to have to pay a lot more attention to. And I say that as somebody who has very dubious opinions about regulation and how it can strangle. I think we got to be really, really careful, but I don't think nothing is an option because the data sharing is a huge problem.
And that's the Google changelog. Yeah. Oh boy, he did not expect that, did he? I really threw you on that one. Sorry. Sorry. Hugo Award nominee for Best Short Story, a finalist, a series of text messages. That's an interesting way to publish a short story. Chuck Taggart tweeted the text messages. He said, "This is the only one that made me cry." He has screenshots of the text messages. This is, I won't read it because it's got some bad words in it and so forth. But this is a good argument for... It actually comes from Buy Dyke Energy. She's tweeted it. But this is a good argument for Twitter threads. Now you got me, because this is a whole short story in a Twitter thread, which is kind of captured text messages.
It's about two worlds and about gender and sexual identity, and it's it's wonderful to see this kind of creativity with the form.
And I love it that the Hugo Committee says, hey, yeah, that counts. We can nominate that. How did whoever wrote this, how did they publish it, though? I mean, they just sent a bunch of text messages.
That I don't know. I put it up, but I don't know.
Yeah. I love the idea.
On Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's Twitter was screenshots of text messages, so that's just fascinating. I don't know. This is actually a tweet thread from last year. So this was the tweet thread that published it, I guess. And then
I think so.
Yeah, in fact, yes. Okay, so Bidike Energy, aka Azure Husky, this is her story, publishing it. She's now a Hugo finalist. So that is
her or their. We don't know the pronoun.
No, she uses she her.
So
that's great. So she published this. I love it on Twitter as a series of images of text messages. We at one point we had a Tom Merritt and a bunch of us had a Twitter account called 140 Novel back when Twitter was 140 characters, where we were all writing a novel.
I remember that.
Remember that? And we each would post, and then we'd take turns posting. It didn't work out very well.
I remember that.
It was, too many horses pulling in too many different directions. I love that. I think I am now in the Jeff Jarvis section.
Wait, hey, I try to be helpful.
Eat the Rich.
That was one of mine. Well, that was a smart ass remark, yes.
Okay. MSCHF, short for Mischief, invites you to Eat the Rich at their ice cream pop-up. They have Eat the Rich popsicles, including Bite Bezos, Munch Musk, and Snack on Jack. There's a Gobble Gates and a Suck Zuck. Are they actual? Can you actually get these? I think you can. Yeah. Pop-up. It's an art
and other similar kinds of things.
Yeah.
Somebody said on Twitter, I forget who it was, said this is an attempt to mock capitalism, but it is and another way to put it is it's the extreme of capitalism.
They look mighty tasty. I just got to say that, and they're going to be all over the LA area.
It's like LA, right?
Yeah, so you can go and munch Musk at a pop-up near
They
you.
also had 666 chicken sandwiches in response to Chick-fil-A being closed on Sundays.
Oh, wow.
And at one point they did Lil Nas X Satan Nikes. I don't know what that was all about. I'm not hip enough to know that. World Emoji Day is coming up. It's on Friday. I won't be here on Friday. I'll be in Seattle getting ready to go on a cruise, but I thought I would share the new emojis that are coming in 2022. A shaking face, 2 pushing hands, a plain pink heart. These are some of the new emojis. Are you excited for 2022? There's also what?
I think I can hear Micah Sargent rejoicing loudly right now.
Why did he?
Yes.
Was he looking for one of
emojis.
these? Oh, he loves emojis. Well, he might like, besides those, the donkey, the moose, the jellyfish, the hair pick. This is a conda, which is a symbol of the Sikh faith. Looks like a Peruvian flute, some maracas, peas in a pod, a ginger, a goose, a raven. This is a pretty good collection of emojis. It's not easy to get these. You have to get them approved.
Right. Not
easy. So happy World Emoji Day.
Not everyone is Miss Jane Donovan. Have that power.
What was the emoji Jane
it's poop emoji, right?
Poop? No. Joan Donovan
not Jane Jones.
Was a dumpling, or I can't remember what her
No. She was
Beaver.
A double entendre.
She was the beaver.
Oh, beaver.
She was the beaver. And now
Jenny 8 Lee was the dumpling.
She was the dumpling, yes.
And she joined the committee that now chooses these things.
And if if you're interested and you want to read the original beaver emoji proposal, it is
say it with a straight face.
Yeah,
sir.
it is published up there on the Unicode Consortium. But I think it's a good idea probably to read these proposals so that you too can be prepared
Again, these are very 2022 sentences.
They really are.
Just get in your time machine,
really
set it
are.
back a few clicks, and you would never be having this conversation.
And actually, if you search for Joan Donovan and Emoji, you will find a link to This Week in Google where Joan explains to us how it all happened. Yes, Emoji Day coming up. Hostess is launching its own cryptocurrency, the Twink coin. Twink coin snack cakes, limited edition, as one would expect. They are in fact not to be used as currency. They're to be eaten. They're vanilla sponge cake.
That's debatable.
Yeah, cream-filled interior. The Twink coin. Look for them in a store near you. I'm eating my crypto.
I mean, if you're willing to do the hot dogs, I suppose there's no limits. You might as well have this, but
the information has decided to put money where its mouth is. They're launching a social network for rich people. I mean, subscribers. Since the subscriber is paying, as I am, $400 a year, I guess it's fair to say it's a social network. I'm thrilled. Jessica Lesson, who's been on the show before, we're big fans of the information, announced that the new system, which rolls out this week, will have 3 core features: user profiles. Subscribers will be able to opt in to share fuller information about themselves, their interests. You can also opt in to send and receive direct messages. There'll be a directory of profiles. It sounds a little bit like LinkedIn. And there will be a forum.
Actually, let me not be cynical about this. I love this news. And it's very similar to, because I write all these amicus briefs for TechDirt, the Copia Institute, which is the TechDirt is the news publication arm of the same enterprise. And I make the point in these things that one of the ways that TechDirt, this news site, interacts with its audience is thanks to Section 230, it has a forum for comments. It has other forums for subscribers to talk to each other. It's also a platform to do monetization. So we're solving the how do we fund news business type thing. It's great to actually see other people do it because it becomes part of my advocacy in saving Section 230, because when you save Section 230, this is what you save to, this interaction of people who are reading and consuming discourse and help feed the discourse. This is fantastic. I'd like to see more of this happen. And I want to roll it into an amicus brief or something like that to point out to people who want to step on Section 230 that this is the type of an enterprise like this couldn't do it if we didn't have this law to protect it.
Yeah. I mean, we have, TWiT has a number of ways we can interact with our audience. There's an IRC that's open at all times. There's a Discord server for our Club TWiT members. There's a discourse forum, twit.community. There's a Mastodon instance. And yeah, if it weren't for the minute Section 230 falls, I have to close them all because we can't afford to be sued, for what people say on our various public forums.
Everyone thinks Section 230 is Google, Facebook, and Twitter. And that's like, you should be able to have the entire conversation about Section 230 and never mention these names at all. That this is really about this is about TWiT, TechDirt, the information, all these and other enterprises where you're having discourse, you're presenting information to an audience, the audience is continuing to discuss it and providing information back to its community and to the media outlet. Like, this is a really synergistic thing. And this discourse is enabled by Section 230, which backs up the First Amendment values that help the discourse exist. Like, it hurts public discourse entirely if we do not have this law. And that's what I try to write my briefs about, to point and do advocacy to sort of say, resist the temptation that just because the internet has some bad stuff, you do not want to take this away, because you will take away everything that is good, including the ability of having independent media out there.
So you filed an amicus brief with who and for what? I'm looking at this.
Several things, but sent to you, and the rundown is 2 things in particular. One was a Section 230 brief at the 11th Circuit, where, again, it was a defense of Section 230 to point out that vulnerable people defend Oh, wait, that's the other one that you pulled up.
Oh, I'll pull up the other one. You want copy protections for the... Oh, there's so many of these.
I know.
Copyright law destroy free expression, a rare right we ostensibly have left. Is that it?
I can talk about that one, but the one I launched into was the one that talked about vulnerable people.
Line 64.
Line 64, vulnerable people. Because vulnerable people need Section 230, what you were just saying. And as a vulnerable person, I agree. So this is for the 11th.
This is the 11th. This is following
MH versus Omegle.
Yeah. As of all these cases involve absolutely terrible things that happen. And let's not gloss over that an absolutely terrible thing happened to MH, which MH may be the guardian and not the child, but basically the child was induced to do something sexually inappropriate. This was a problem. But what the plaintiffs want to do is they're not looking for the remedy in this case to go after the person who actually caused the harm. They want to go after the platform because since the platform existed and this terrible thing could happen, that somehow they want the platform to be at fault for it. And that sounds very tempting in this particular situation, but that does not scale to any usable way where that would they basically want Section 230 not to work in any sort of insulating capacity that makes it useful for anybody who needs it in order to provide any sort of forum for any sort of communication among users and user expressive content. If you take it away or you make Section 230 not applicable here, it will essentially not be applicable anywhere. And then forums can't exist, including the forums that vulnerable people need to, you need the forums because you need the forums to be able to call for help, organize, push back if, the politics are going really badly and you're going to hurt vulnerable people. Like you need the ability to speak out. And Section 230 means that the platforms can exist to help you speak out. If you don't have Section 230, then the forums either can't exist or they're going to have to screen out so much content that even if they're available, you're not going to get to use it. And the second thing that Section 230 does is try to actually make these conducive communities within which you can speak. And obviously they can't and don't do it perfectly, but they could give it as best try as they can because they have the legal protection that Section 230 provides to back up their ability to make moderation decisions. And if you take Section 230 away, then whatever communities remain will be particularly toxic. So again, vulnerable people are not going to be able to successfully speak online. So it's like if you have to kind of expand the view, and that's what we were telling the court, that you have to look at it more broadly. And I know the temptation is to give this particular victim a remedy, and the deep pocket to try to pull from is the platform. But that would mean that you basically turn Section 230 into a nullity. It can no longer function as an insulating law. And if it doesn't function as an insulating law, then nobody benefits from it. And all the activity that it protects stops being protected and goes away.
Omegle's an interesting plaintiff or respondent, I guess, because they are a chat that allows you to talk to strangers. They claim to be moderated, although I noticed there's a button that also has an unmoderated section. They also say you have to be 18 plus or 13 plus with parental permission, which might let them off the hook because after all, isn't the parent responsible for the child?
That came up in the case. It doesn't, I don't know how salient it is to the Section 230 issue. I mean, basically Section 230 doesn't require, Section 230 itself does not require them to limit it or in any way like that. Same way Section 230 doesn't require you to moderate your forums in any particular way.
Right.
So they're trying to say that,
the 11th Circuit just throw this out? Because isn't that what normally would happen with Section 230? That just say
no. Well, no, because this is the appeal. So they tried to sue Omegle and they lost because a couple of the claims were outright dismissed, and then Section 230 held, where Section 230 prevented the other claims they wanted to go forward. So they lost. Section 230 did its job. They are now appealing, where they want the 11th Circuit to say, the district court got it wrong. Section 230 shouldn't have precluded the claims. Here's why. And then we joined as an amicus to sort of push back and say, bigger picture, if these claims could go forward, then Section 230 no longer functions in the way that Congress wrote it to do and intended for it to do. And all of a sudden, speech is not protected, including for other vulnerable people. Also non-vulnerable people, but we wanted to really make it that the optics are, your temptation is to help a person who really needs help, but other people are also going to need help. And those people are best helped by having Section 230 preclude some of these sorts of claims, because in the bigger picture, more vulnerable people are going to be helped in more significant ways.
How is the 11th on these kinds of things? They're Georgia, Florida, and Alabama.
I don't know, but this is the case that took one of the Florida theme park statutes where Florida is trying to regulate the internet. So it's partly why I wanted to make sure. And they actually came out with a decision that was relatively friendly on the First Amendment front, where they could recognize the speech issues and had some inclination to vindicate them. It wasn't perfect, but it was much better than it could have been. And but they never really reached the Section 230 issues on that case, and they may in the future. So I think it was sort of important to use this opportunity to start educating the 11th Circuit, because these issues are not going to go away. They're going to come back. But there's persuasive precedent in other circuits that they can certainly draw from. I think the legal argument is very strong on Omegli's side, but whether the 11th Circuit just will really want to undo things just to try to provide support to this plaintiff, I hope not. And that's why we were there, to try to avoid that temptation.
Yeah. And good on the Copia Institute for supporting that kind of work. That's great.
It's tricky because you don't want to it's a sympathetic plaintiff, but we run into these situations because the principle of the thing and how it applies more broadly is really more people will benefit by pushing back on some of these more individualized claims.
Yeah.
That's why we need legal thinkers like you to be thinking about this and raising those issues and reminding people that the immediate emotional response is often not the long-term.
Yeah, because nobody
response.
wants small children to be, kids to be
no, of course not,
in a public forum. But
they're more likely, if you lose Section 230, then the forums lose the ability to try to moderate them at all. So that's not going to work out well for them and protect anybody. Yeah. So, yeah.
And we do moderate, of course. We actually pretty actively moderate IRC. We don't have to moderate the Discord so much because those people paid to be there. And for some reason, people who pay don't seem to be so troublesome.
Imagine now you it. Now next time you go back in there,
they're just scared. I just hold up the ant card and they go, whoa, never mind. Never mind.
It's laminated. It's laminated now.
Laminated. Now with lamination. Did we come up with a game for Mr. Jarvis? Somebody suggested the Untitled Goose Game, which would fit his personality. In that game, you play a goose taunting, terrifying, and annoying gardeners and other people as you wander around.
Oh, I forgot about that game.
I think you'd like Goat Simulator too, actually. What kind of game? What kind of? We got to get some more information about you, Jeff. What do you think you would enjoy?
I think something. I don't.
You don't want to shoot stuff. I understand.
No, I don't want to shoot stuff. I don't want to. Let me tell you what I do want to do.
Do you want a puzzle game?
I hate Wordle.
Not that kind of puzzle.
Crossword puzzles. I know, but I just if it's too puzzly, no, it feels like a waste of time.
Because Portal, a lot of people suggested Portal, which I think is a lot lot of fun.
I think about characters. I think what interests me about this.
Oh, I know.
Why not Super Mario Brothers?
That's not a good character. Hey, it's a Mario. Hey,
Super Mario Brothers. That was good.
How about Last of Us? But
that's where this book tomorrow kind of starts. But go ahead.
There are some games where actually there's some good indie games out there where it's more about the person. It's like storytelling, which I think you would like. Somebody's saying you'd like Minecraft. Maybe, yeah, maybe. But if you want storytelling. There's some good, but unfortunately, I think a lot of them are on the PlayStation. There's some good indie games on the PS4 and PS5. Last of Us might be too grim for you.
Just get him some Madden football. Settles it all.
Yeah,
right there.
I'm trying to remember. There were some really good indie games that had stories. And you really felt like you started to identify with the character. I think that's what you want. You want something to be that you can like. Man, I don't know. This could be a hard one, and it's got to be on the Mac. That's the hardest thing. Somebody said Oregon Trail. Not only that, you could
Even I know that. What an insult that is.
Wow.
Yes.
Classic.
It's in the in the arcade, and actually, Oregon Trail just added the ability to monitor your steps so that you could find out how close to Oregon you are based on how much you walk, which is kind of a fun little thing. I don't know.
I mean, you could go, I guess, to like GOG Games or something like that and browse, because they've got a lot of old school games. Like, I mean, I only play a game that I was playing in like 2002, and I downloaded it from GOG, and I'm perfectly happy with it. But they may have other ones, like other games that came and went. And I think it can work on non-PlayStation things.
Yeah, I think
like
it's all Windows. Oh, wait a minute. They do have some Mac stuff. There's some Apple stuff. GOG is great. Good old games. And they're cheap. They're a couple of bucks.
And I think DRM free, which was also important to me. Some of the other commensurate services may not be.
And it's France week, so you can get a French game. Ooh. That's kind of a challenge. We want to get a game that Jeff will enjoy, or at least open his mind to the idea that games could be something of value.
That's it.
Yeah.
And what interests me about them in this book, because it's a really nice, it does start with Mario Brothers. It starts with two 11-year-old kids in a hospital with Mario Brothers, and then they become lifelong friends and make games. And at one point, one of the games they make into an online environment, taking it out of the game. So it shows the progression, the history of gaming, which I find interesting as well. But what interests me, I think, going forward is the game maker as auteur and the game player as collaborator in the process of mutual creation. That's what interests me. That makes any sense? Yeah,
and do you like board games? Like, do you ever play any kind of?
No, I'm very boring. I can't stand games of any sort. That's that's why I don't game.
It's gonna be pretty challenging. No Monopoly, no Sorry, no Parcheesi.
NES emulator for the Mac. Yeah, and grab Super Mario Brothers, just like the book.
He's not 12 though. That's the problem.
No.
Flight Simulator. Pac-Man.
No, that's not about people. I want things about people.
Yeah, there's some good story games.
Pac-Man's a person.
Yeah.
Mission.
The Telltale catalog?
Mortal Kombat.
You're just trying to mess my head up, Ant. I'm going to come back and be a...
Oh, that's Monkey Island, Sam and Max. Yeah.
Right, the game I play is Heroes of Might and Magic 3.
There's a game.
I like it.
That's a real game. Yeah.
I don't know if Jeff will... Heroes of Might and Magic 3. Not after 3, not before 3, and not the other Heroes series. Heroes of Might and Magic version 3.
Yeah. If you liked board games, Civilization would be good, but I think he doesn't like board games. And that is the ultimate board game. It's a turn-based game. So Civ, while a lot of people love it, may not be the right thing for Jeff. I think
there's SimCity or Age of Empires, but I can't find Age of Empires anymore.
I love Age of Empires. Oh, they re-released it in a
Oh, did they?
Oh yeah, you can get it now from Microsoft, and it's really good.
I'm really irritated because I own a copy that will no longer run on any usable machine, and this offends me deeply.
Yeah. Age of Empires got remastered. In fact, the new Age of Empires is, I hear, very good. If you really like Age of Empires, which I did, it was I think it's called the Definitive Edition, something like that.
I don't think any game is going to satisfy him.
No, I'm really racking my brain. There are games where it's a story, like you're a character. Oh, you know what? The game is coming out next week. Oh, I found it for you. I know exactly what game. It comes out next week. I'm so excited. It's a third-person cat adventure game. It's called Stray. You play a cat wandering around in an environment, and it's kind of puzzly. It's not, you don't kill anybody. You have to solve puzzles. I think actually...
I bet he hates cats, though.
Do you hate cats?
No, I have one. Why is there a phone on the cat?
No, because it's a cat in some sort of little science-y future. Science fiction future.
It's Lambda meets cat?
Yeah, sort of. I think the thing is your interface or something.
That cat was on BART.
Yeah. So this cat can eventually get these robots to do what it wants.
It's Padres Vaticats.
I think I'm very excited about this game. I think this might be the game for you.
This might be.
Because it's
Chickenhead 21 in the chat has the best one. Font match.
No, not font match. He's not that nerdy. So this one, you play a cat. It's beautiful environments, right? You're solving puzzles. You have to solve puzzles. There's no shooting involved. You're going to get this robot to be your friend. You have to watch out for these. They're going after you. But you don't shoot back.
Pretty cool.
Doesn't it look good?
Yeah.
This comes out next week. I've been waiting for this to come out. I'm very excited about this. Can you play it on Mac? Probably not. Probably you need a PlayStation or an Xbox. But this is Stray. You're a kitty cat. Don't you think that would be fun, Jeff?
That's the color of our cat.
Better than a goose.
That was a weird meow mouth, but okay.
Yeah, PS4 and Steam, which means you can play it on a PC, but not
on Windows.
Not on a Mac.
Oh well.
Or Linux.
I used to play Caverns of Mars.
Oh, that was a fun game. I remember that.
Yeah. Okay. That was a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Stray. I'm going to go with Stray, but we got to get you a PlayStation. We'll send you a PlayStation.
No, you don't need to send me a PlayStation.
You don't have a PC anywhere in the house?
My daughter has a PC.
Steal hers. Oh, wait a minute. What am I thinking? You're made for Sudoku. You'd be a great Sudoku.
Oh.
Don't. No. Oh, gosh.
Try it. You try it. You didn't learn. You bring it up. We nerd you out.
You might with some nerdery.
Cathy, we've made fun of Leo for his Sudoku nerding.
Yeah, they mock me all the time.
Yeah,
you might with some effort. I'll have to look and see if Stray works on Linux. I bet it doesn't, but I will check. You might be able to get it to work on your Chromebook, although I think it's not going to have enough power. I have a game for you I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but first we're going to wrap this puppy up with our picks of the week in just a moment. Cathy Gellis is here, Esquire. It's great to have you. Thank you, Cathy, filling in for Stacy. And we needed a professional attorney, I think, on this week's episode for sure.
Certainly not an amateur one. There's enough of those around.
Yeah. Well, the three of us usually. Jeff Jarvis, of course, as always. What would we do without Jeff? Or what we do about Jeff?
You try to find out, but you can't because I won't go away.
And Aunt Pruitt, I will not be here next week. I think we're going to have Jason host. Is that right? I can't remember. Jason, I think
that's
is
what
it
says.
Yes, then that's the truth.
Either that or we have 4 guests and no host, which would be anarchy as opposed to democracy.
Well, we need the reason you can't host is we need somebody to read the ads, and it has to be, in other words, a staff.
And I screwed that up. I couldn't even switch to the ads.
Introduce the ads, let alone read the ads. So Stacy will be back.
I had all kinds of good jokes, and there they went.
And Jeff. Well, because it was my fault, because I said I was on a cruise, because I wasn't thinking when I read the ads. I thought it was the ads for the...
So what did you do? Did you re-record the ads then?
They edited it. They just edited
it.
They figured.
Good old Mr.
But the
Victor.
challenge was...
Look, if they can laminate, they can figure out anything.
Oh, yeah. We got a laminator and an editor. The challenge was because you made so many jokes about it.
Yes.
We had to not only edit the ad, we had to edit you.
I know. Because I made a whole shtick out of it. Leo doesn't know where he is. Leo's lost. Oh my God. Leo says he's on the boat. Aunt's telling me no, he's not on the
Rhode
boat.
Island.
Jeez.
I will be on the boat.
Your best material ended up on the cutting room floor.
Exactly. I'm pissed.
I will be on the boat this week. We're going with 120 TWiT fans. Can't wait to meet you all.
120? Wow.
Yeah, it's great. Can't wait to meet you all in there. Cruise to Alaska on the Holland America Euro Dam, leaving from Seattle on Saturday. It'll be great fun with Paul Thurrott of Windows Weekly and his wife, Lisa, and I, and a bunch of wonderful people. Wow, if I can, I will. I'm bringing. I bought the Snapchat selfie drone.
Oh, you did?
But it's broken. Not my fault. I was updating firmware and now it's stuck. So if I can get it unstuck, I'll do a selfie with a selfie drone. We'll send you that of everybody.
Unbelievable.
Otherwise, I'll have to bring the DJI and do it by hand. But we'll get a drone selfie of the group. We'll also.
I tried to tell you not to buy that thing, didn't I?
Yeah, you were.
Yeah, you did. You did.
When the product's not ready for prime time, Aunt is going to stop you.
Uh-huh.
Good grief.
Cathy, your opportunity, and I see you have one. Your picks are always a little odd. Your pick.
Oh, she had the best one. What was it? Huey Lewis?
I mean, I can't really top that. So I sort of like set the bar like a little too high, a little too early. And so it's been a struggle.
So no Huey Lewis this time.
I mean, I could always come up with some Huey Lewis, but I thought you might want me to diversify my use.
Is this a picture you took?
I took it. Yep.
Of the beautiful Boston Harbor.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice. I love it. I was in Providence 2 weeks ago. That's where I was, not on a cruise, and it was really beautiful. This is a good time of year in New England. Why are you there?
I just wanted the day at the beach. I missed the ocean. It's different in California. I miss the East Coast Atlantic type beaches.
Yeah,
so.
Me too.
Yep.
I had clam cakes and lobster roll. Here is the beach at Cape Cod. This is a beautiful beach. And what's nice,
pretty.
When I moved to California, I was so disappointed. The water's freezing cold. I thought
it is cold, man.
On the Atlantic is beautiful. It's warm even in New England. It's beautiful. And there's a great Cape Cod shot. What did you take that picture with, Cathy?
Just Pixel 3.
Nice.
Yeah,
you see,
pretty.
Even the
Yeah,
3,
it did.
still great images.
It's
really
pretty,
good.
and her horizon line is straight too. Nice.
Oh,
work.
thank goodness. Okay. I mean, I don't think I could see properly because like there was all this glare. I was wearing sunglasses. So at a certain point, I'm like, well, I mean, it's not being filmed. You could just snap away, but it's not like I
perfect.
threw away a whole bunch. That one actually came out.
It's
and I like the
perfect.
sailboat shot, like the sailboat timing. I have another shot with a sailboat in a different place, but I just like that one better. It's like it needs to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes a big difference. Without the sailboat, that's not nearly as interesting.
So true.
Yep.
So true.
Yep. Very nice. Cathy, thank you so much for being here. You're really valued,
having me.
especially when we have these interesting court situations. Jeff, a number, an item, a thing?
Oh, right. I got to do something. I got to earn my keep here. Let's see. This you just say and then you move on. Office occupancy is stuck at 50%, which I think is an important moment. That's a number. But I found this interesting. I think we might have talked about this before. BMW is going to start selling heated seat subscriptions for $18 a month, not in the U.S. market, but in other markets.
And you already have everything you need for heated seats. They just block it in software.
It's very kind of learning from Elon, yeah.
Terrible.
Which is terrible. And then the other thing that was interesting that struck me at the same time is Boohoo, which is an e-commerce player, I think mainly in the UK, is going to start charging shoppers £1.99 to return items because the return issues.
Can you say?
Wait where that goes next.
Can you say? No, boo-hoo?
Yeah. I mean, people will buy online because they're safe because they can return things if they don't like them and they can find out,
Right.
No. It's like when banks brought in ATMs and wanted you to use the ATM so they could fire tellers and then eventually tried to charge you for using the ATM so that they could save money firing the tellers.
Yeah.
Greed.
No.
What was I saying about following your users and paying attention to your market and what your market wants?
Exactly. Well, this will be a good experiment. We will see. Does it cost them customers? I know I wouldn't buy clothes if I didn't have online, if I didn't have easy return.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Nuts, right? Lisa,
I mean, I'm sympathetic with the companies because getting the returns is hard. It adds a lot of expense. I get that, but they wouldn't sell anything, and otherwise they'd have to have brick and mortar stores all over the country. They're better off in the long run if they manage it right and if they describe their products correctly and so on.
Exactly. Lisa will, and she knows she can do this, so that's why she'll do it. Instead of going to a store and trying on clothes, she'll order all the clothes that look good in a catalog, keep the ones that fit nicely and work well for her, and send the rest back. That's kind of the deal. I understand the stores don't like it, but that's how it works.
I understand that you don't know how tall I am, so let me just tell you I'm like 5'8", but I'm really not. So when I go to the stores, they don't have the clothes that fit. They're sending me to the catalog. So what am I going to do?
Isn't that ironic?
Oh.
Yeah. They say sorry. Yeah. Our son has feet about this big. They're like flippers. And, good luck trying to find. So they always say, yeah, well, you can go to Zappos. And that's where we end up getting all his shoes. But if you had to pay to return shoes, no, that's not going to
Oh, especially shoes of all things. Yeah.
Mr. Ant, what do you got for us?
Well, I have a little bit of a laws from the folks at Lens Rentals. They were on Twitter, and I thought this was pretty funny and related to our recent news, TWiT news from, was it Tuesday?
Yeah.
With the Webb telescope. And I thought this was just a funny tweet from them.
Versus the poor Hubble has been doing a great job for decades, giving us amazing images of space. And all of a sudden, this new guy, James Webb Space Telescope, comes along. And the comparison isn't great, but we got a lot of science out of Hubble. Boy, those pictures from the Webb are unbelievable.
They were pretty.
Yeah.
Very, very pretty.
Yeah.
You and Mr. Powell talked about it the other day, right?
We did. We did a special with the NASA press conference, and it was really, each image was just so dramatic. The most dramatic one here, and this is kind of nice with a slider, is this is the Carina Nebula. This is I think the most beautiful image that the Webb got. This is from the Hubble. What this is a nebula and stars being born coming out of the gas cloud. That's the Hubble. That's the Webb, and you can see why they're kind of making that tweet, because
that's unbelievable.
It's a dramatic difference.
I watched the beginning of the press conference. I had to switch, of course, to watch the January 6th hearing, not being only a nerd. And, it was touching when one of the scientists said that, yeah, she did ugly cry when she saw it.
Oh, I would have. I was tearing up a little bit. They were stunning. And, of course, my pick would be the astronomy photo of the day, which I've for a long time used as my wallpaper. And today's APOD picture is one of the James Webb Telescope pictures. This is of a distant galaxy, and you can see the smears here are the lensing.
Everything is a galaxy.
Every one of these is a galaxy. Yeah, distant galaxies.
Amazing.
And
you can get that on a rug now. Somebody went to one of the sites where you could get custom prints and selling.
Put it
rugs.
as a rug.
So the lensing is the light going around something, and that makes it look like that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty. This is the deepest, sharpest infrared image of the cosmos so far. A 12.5-hour exposure. Yeah.
Wow.
Pretty amazing. The SMACS 0723-73 galaxy cluster, 4.6 billion light years away.
And they could have chosen any other grain of sand on the tip of the fingerprint around it, right? That's just one tiny, tiny, tiny slice of what they could have shot.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. They'll be busy. They'll be very busy, but what an amazing telescope. What else, Ant? You had, that was one pick, but you have others, I know.
There was one. My other one is, because of Prime Day, I've been sort of looking around for some stuff for people in the photography and video side of things. And this one is the follow focus from Small Rig. And I bought one of these a while back, but of course it's now on sale. And I really enjoy this thing. If you're into shooting video and you want to have a better control of your focus by doing manual focus, this wheel works really, really well. It has A/B stops on it. So if you want to lock off where you want to put your focus, you can just pull that little notch down right there and it'll stop where you need it to stop. I use it all the time. I think it was off for like 20 or 30% on Prime Day. Highly recommend it. Quite dadgum useful. Small Rig.
So this is what they use when they make movies and they do a rack focus. They'll set it up so that they know exactly where the start is and where the end is. And they can do it without jostling the camera and all that.
That's right.
Yeah, very cool.
It's pretty daggum awesome. And you can put it on your little mini. It comes with a rail if you don't have rails to put on your camera. It's quite nice. Quite very nice. Cool.
$77, not bad.
And lastly, I just want to say congratulations to Mr. Micah Sargent. Because we got another show.
Oh, yeah. Let's not forget. Micah's rebirthing Hands on Mac. I did 40 episodes, then stopped, but nobody better to take it up than our Mac expert, Micah Sargent. It is club only now. Sorry. So you have to be a member of Club TWiT. $7.99 a month gets you this, but also all of our other shows ad-free. You get access to the Discord, the TWiT Plus feed. And because new shows like baby stars, can't get advertising, we like to launch them in the nebula of the club before we push them out. The club members, in effect, are supporting the launch of new shows, and we've got we hope some other new ones coming along. But this will be the first. So there's two ways actually you can get it. Join the club's the best way, I think. $7.99, you get all the shows ad free. But if you just want Hands on Mac, you can also get that for $2.99 a month. $7.99 a month, $2.99 a month, and that is all at twit.tv/clubtwit. And it's ad free because it hasn't any ads. As a matter of fact, yeah. He's doing some really interesting stuff, though. I'm really glad he's doing this. Thank you for the plug, Ant.
Likewise. I just wanted to show off my shot because it's always a pleasure to take the photos of our hosts and staff. I mean, everybody's so dadgum photogenic. I love shooting y'all.
Some of them are.
What was Micah taking?
Well, this week on Hands on Photography,
you're gonna fix me.
Someone's image will be featured on the show.
You're gonna fix my shot.
Why do you think I choose a low-res camera to appear on your show?
Ant is going to adjust my shot. That should be fun. That'll be fun on Hands on Photography. Twit.tv/hop. Jeff Jarvis, so good to have you, as always, the director of the Townite Center for Entrepreneurial Journalism at the Craig Newmark Graduate School of Journalism at the City University of New York, buzzmachine.com, and Medium. You're not going to leave Medium, right?
No, I'm not going to leave Medium or Twitter.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, the club price is $7 a month. What did I say? I said $7.99. It's not $7.99. It's $7.
No, $7
straight.
If you want to send in an extra 99
inflation.
cents,
you can send in $99 if you want to. And Cathy Gellis, so great to have you from Tech Dirt. And, of course, her law offices are at CG Counsel, COUNSEL.com. She's Cathy Gellis on the Twitter. Thank you, Cathy. What are you saying, Burke? Yeah, I showed her the card. Oh, yeah. I showed her. Burke apparently runs the laminator, and he really wanted more attention.
I cannot give Burke enough attention for laminating that card. That was amazing.
I wish I had known. I could laminate some of my cruise documents. That'd be a good thing to do, huh?
No, it has to come from the heart, Leo. It has to come from the heart.
Lamination from the heart. You're right. None of this spurious lamination. That's like ancillary copyright. It just doesn't work. Thank you, Cathy, for being here. You're wonderful, and I thank your dad for letting us use his bandwidth all afternoon or all evening.
And his time with you. Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that's right. My mom would not have let me do this. No. We do This Week in Google every Wednesday about 2 Pacific, 5 Eastern, 2100 UTC. Watch us live at live.twit.tv. Chat with us at irc.twit.tv or in the Club Twit Discord after the fact. We have a forum at twit.community, Mastodon instance at twit.social. Conversation continues there as well. On-demand versions of our show available at the website, twit.tv/twig. There's a YouTube channel dedicated to the video. You can find This Week in Google on YouTube. And, of course, you can always subscribe in your favorite podcast client. That way you'll get it automatically the minute it's available of a Wednesday afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I will be gone for the next week. Jason and Micah are going to take over for me. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Micah's going to do the Tech Guys show. That's going to be interesting on Saturday. That's his first time. Ooh. And I will be back on the 24th to host This Week in Tech. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time on Twig. Bye-bye.
Don't miss All About Android every week. We talk about the latest news, hardware, apps, and now all the developer-y goodness happening in the Android ecosystem. I'm Jason Howell, also joined by Ron Richards, Florence Ion, and our newest co-host on the panel, Wen Tu Dao, who brings her developer chops. Really great stuff. We also invite people from all over the Android ecosystem to talk about this mobile platform we love so much. Join us every Tuesday, All About Android on twit.tv.